Network. It's sports talk done better.
Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seat. The show is about to begin.
Presented by Front Yard Fantasy. I'm your host, Simon. Joined as always by my wildly handsome co-host, John Luke Garofalo. Our friend Coop with us, aka Coop A. Fiasco. What's up, everyone, and welcome into the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show here on the Bettor Sports Network. And today, guys, we are going to be talking nothing but highlight. This is now a highlight program. Coop, you've recently been introduced to the sport, highlight. What are you thinking?
I just figured out how to spell it for the first time. Folks in the chat, see if you can guess how to spell highlight without looking it up. Highlight. Trying to look up the best players of all time. It's actually not as easy as you would think. But so far the name I've come to is Joey.
Joey.
This article legit doesn't even have a last name in this article.
Joey's real good.
Joey's kind of a star, dude. Joey's kind of a star.
The only people that are going to know how to spell it are people that have ever had the beer highlight from Cigar City Brewing down in Tampa. Like, it's a relatively popular beer, not wildly popular, but then you know how to spell highlight. You just may not have known that it was also a sport.
Yeah. Oh, dude, actually, this article says that the best player of all time is Francisco Maria Churuco Iriondo Azpaizo Alcorta.
Ah, yeah.
So,
yeah.
Chad, if you can spell that,
I think I have his jersey.
the name is this small in the back.
I almost didn't recognize him
like
because you didn't say his full name. You left out his middle name, Coop.
I did, yeah. I was going to leave out his middle name, which is Pete.
Pete, yeah, of course.
Maria said, I don't even know what you're saying to guess.
Good morning, Craig. Craig said, good morning, my little egg McMuffins.
Morning.
Speaking of egg McMuffins, can you believe this nonsense? I drove through McDonald's yesterday for dinner, and I was like, you know what? We're going to pick up my adult Happy Meal. I'm going to get a toy that is not Grimace, and we're going to be good to go. And I pulled up, and they said, I'm sorry, we're out until tomorrow. Ooh. And I said, out until tomorrow, like out loud with pure shock in my voice. And she said, yes, sir. And I said, okay, thank you. And I just pulled out and drove away. Like, I could have just gotten a 10-piece meal. Know what I mean? It wouldn't have had the toy, but
dude.
They said no. And I was like, man, I don't want it anymore.
I love how you're doing the nerd voice for her, except for you're the dude who drove away hungry because you didn't get a toy.
Yeah.
You're a grown man.
100%. We got Tommy in here said, yo, time for the show. Yep. And Maria said, Maria, I can spell the middle name, Maria. She nailed it. Absolutely nailed it.
That's actually the correct spelling. So you win.
If you guys want to see the craziest sport you've ever seen, like this is the one that always gets me. Look up Sepak Takraw. I think that's how, I don't know exactly how to spell it, but you can probably get close enough with that. It's basically volleyball meets like soccer, but with a smaller ball. So they're only using like bicycle kicks and stuff to get it over the net. And so people are setting the ball and then they jump up and they do bicycle kicks to kick it over. Like, it is the craziest thing I've ever watched.
Bro. That game is electric, dude. I've watched that. It's so cool, dude.
Yeah, I've been sucked into YouTube rabbit holes where I'm watching them play that game for hours and hours. So everyone, pull up your Sepak Takraw videos. That's what's on the schedule today until Thursday night football. We got a Thursday night football game to preview. The Indianapolis Colts at the Denver Broncos. In this one, the Broncos are 3.5-point favorites at home with an over-under of 42.5 points. Jonathan Taylor is going to be out in this game officially, as well as Tyquan Lewis and Shaquille Leonard for the Indianapolis Colts, and then safety Julian Blackmon. So they've got some players out in this one. For the Broncos, Javonte Williams, as we know, is out for the rest of the season. So we're not going to get this awesome running back matchup that I think maybe if you were looking at the schedule earlier in the season, you might have been looking forward to. You might have been looking forward to a little Javonte Williams versus Melvin Gordon.
Yeah, for sure. Especially in my big hometown league where I drafted Javonte Williams, and now my team is dust. But it does make for a much more fun DFS slate, does it not? Few more options, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Makes you have to get a
little
little
more
more
wacky.
a little more creative, right?
Crazy.
Maybe not everyone's just going chalk with JT in their lineups anymore because they cannot go that way anymore. Over under set at 42.5 doesn't seem like Vegas is too confident that they're going to score a lot of points in this game. What do you guys think? Do you guys think this is going to be a low scoring game?
Jail, why don't you join the show for a moment?
I'm freaking having technical issues over here.
I was about to
Dang.
sneeze. That's why I paused mine, but then my sneeze went away because Simon forced me to talk. So
So you suppressed it. Yeah, I think this game is gonna be. I think this game might be low key fun. You know, I think it might be a little crazy. I think we might see Russ come back, have a little bounce back this week. Are you guys excited? Are you guys starting? You guys start Cortland Sutton, right?
oh,
Yeah, you have to.
He's been sick. He's been great.
What about Jerry Judy? Is he a must start?
Yeah, I mean, like the snaps are pretty highly consolidated among those guys, but I would say Judy's must start. If you are in like a 10-team league, you might be able to find somebody better. But in most, if you're a 12-team league with 3 wide receiver spots, it's going to be tough not to start Judy.
I have him around like Adam Thielen tier, like maybe Al Lazard, Adam Thielen, Jared Judy, like those guys. If I've got that tier of player that I'm looking at, then Judy's probably in my lineup, but he's right around those guys for me.
The thing about Judy for me is that, like, if I'm doing DFS, and we're getting this a little early, I mean, Cortland Sutton's probably going to see Mr. Stephon Gilmore, former Defensive Player of the Year, who does sometimes shadow and can be a bit of a problem. So I think Judy could be in line for a nice little night.
And I see Tommy down here saying Justin Simmons is out too for the Broncos, and I like Pittman with Simmons out. The Broncos through 4 weeks have been the toughest matchup for opposing wide receivers, or at least they have had the fewest points scored by opposing fantasy wide receivers. So sometimes that can be misleading depending on game flows. But what do you guys think about Pittman in this matchup? Justin Simmons out, but statistically, it's a tough matchup for wide receivers.
Still,
I'm blowing my
another
nose.
sneeze.
I
He's
just blow my
blowing
nose.
his nose this time. Yeah,
It's booger season.
Michael. It's booger season.
You're allowed to weigh into jail every once in a while.
All right. Let's go with I'm starting Michael Pittman. You got to start Michael Pittman. You got to fire him up.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, definitely in my regular leagues. In DFS, there's not a whole lot of options. I mean, you got to start. I mean, the showdown slate is all flexes, so I guess you don't have to start any wide receivers if you don't want, but you kind of do. So, I mean, Pittman, Judy, that's probably where I'd be going.
I see Craig in your set. I'm putting $10 on whichever side of the spread you all advise me to. Which way do I go? And Jimmy in the chat saying Broncos money line and under. I'm thinking in this one. Coop, I mentioned that the Broncos were 3.5-point favorites and that the over-under was set at 42.5. What are you doing with that spread? Do you think the Broncos win this game, cover that spread, or are the Colts doing a little damage?
I like betting the Colts to cover. I like betting the cover when the line is that low. It doesn't leave a lot of wiggle room. I mean, 42.5, that's down there. The money line and the under for the Broncos is a solid bet. Anything better than just betting the under. Just betting the under is the least fun thing you can do, right? Because then you just once they hit the numbers, you just shut your TV off in like the third quarter, right? So I don't know. It's probably the smart thing to do, but I don't like doing it.
Yeah, it's not fun betting the under, but I think I would bet Colts and the under for this one. I see Tommy saying going the exact opposite, Colts plus over. I think I'm taking the Colts and the under in this one. These offenses are going to look a little different without their superstar running backs out there, right? We had another question in here about this game. So with Javonte Williams getting injured, Melvin Gordon's expected to be the main guy carrying the ball for that offense, but not expected to handle the full workload. Tommy wants to know Latavius Murray or Mike Boone this week. Latavius Murray did look good in his game with the Saints. Coop, are you you throwing Latavius Murray? Or you're throwing Mike Boone out there.
I'm going Mike Boone. Like he's been with the team. The GM George Patton brought him over from the Vikings, and it's such a short week for Latavius Murray to try and learn this scheme. You know what I mean? He doesn't even get the full week. He's been there for what, a day, 2 days. So I think Latavius Murray is more there as an insurance policy than he is a guy that's going to get like 10 to 15 carries or whatever. Whereas I could see Mike Boone getting 10 carries because he got 10 carries last week. So I'm definitely going Mike Boone out of those two.
Yeah, I agree with you. I liked what we saw from Latavius Murray last week, but you have to remember that was an offense that he literally could just like step into and go, right? Like he knew it. It wasn't like just some random guy off the streets. Latavius Murray was
been there.
He's been there, done that. He hasn't been there, done that in this Broncos offense. So I think it's going to be Mike Boone as well. If you're starting Mike Boone, what are you expecting from him? Like an RB2 week? What are your expectations for a player like Mike Boone?
I think that Melvin Gordon's probably going to get the bulk of the work,
Yeah.
regardless of, past fumbles. It's like you give that guy a talking to, but it's not like his hands are weaker than they were previously. Like, I just think that those are more focus issues. And now that, at the time it looked like he was getting benched, and now he's finally going to step out and get that starting role that he talked about all offseason. I think he's going to be ready to rock and roll. So if I'm doing a showdown slate, I'm making sure I get Melvin Gordon.
Melvin Gordon. Yeah, absolutely. This is why part of the reason why Melvin Gordon was a value late, right? He had standalone value as a running back in the system, and then God forbid anything happened. It's football. People get injured. Melvin Gordon is expected to step into a role like that. Like it happens every single year. We got Lucius Nielsen. I'm sorry, go ahead, Joe.
If I can help it, I'd rather wait and see on these guys. The Mike Boone, the Latavius Murray, Melvin Gordon. I want to see how this usage and this, like, how they split up the usage across these guys. I agree with Coop. I'm starting Boone this week if I have to, starting up Gordon if I have to. But if you have the luxury of waiting and seeing, I would recommend you do it.
Man, I view it a little bit differently with Melvin Gordon. I view it, if you have the luxury of starting Melvin Gordon, you should do
Melvin
it.
Gordon
like,
less so. Melvin Gordon definitely less so than Boone and Murray.
I was going to say, I'm not waiting to find out about Melvin Gordon because I think you're going to miss out on a great week from him if you do. Like, he was already startable, even with Javonte Williams in the lineup. Know what I mean? Like, this was a player that we weren't waiting and seeing when Javonte Williams was there. His workload isn't going to shrink when the second back is Mike Boone, right? Like if you were starting Melvin Gordon already, which I think a lot of people were, then you can go ahead and start him with confidence in my mind. But I fully agree with you on the other two guys, JL. Like Mike Boone, Latavius Murray, it's not. If you can avoid starting them, I absolutely would. And I think there's probably lots of names out there that you can plug in. Maybe you've been playing the waiver wire pretty well the last couple of weeks. Got a Khalil Herbert or a Jamal Williams. Even with their main backs back, I think I'd start like a Jamal Williams over a Mike Boone this week, even if DeAndre Swift is playing.
Yeah, I think so too. Because if it's going to be a split backfield, I would rather have the established one in a better matchup, especially because Swift is banged up, so he might not even go right back into the full role.
Yeah. Also, Jordan said you could have started ahead of Lettuce last week and gotten more points than Melvin Gordon. Yeah. So, JL, maybe that's more towards your point. Like, we haven't seen nothing but success from Melvin Gordon, but we have been rolling him out there. What is your nervous level with Melvin Gordon? Like, where do you view him this week? As like an RB2, RB3, near RB1 territory?
I mean, with Melvin Gordon, you just hit like the lottery, basically. Like he was as toast as you can be after fumbling a million times in the first couple games, and then now he's back. So for me, I'm looking at some of these lineups I had where I lost. There's a lot of injured running backs right now, so I can find a spot for him in my lineup. I think he is more of like a back end RB2, high end RB3, but I mean, the vast majority of leagues I play have 2 running back spots and a flex. So there's 24 running backs that are being started across the league, and you got to find a flex spot. I think I can find a spot for Melvin Gordon in most of my lineups.
Yeah, he's a back end RB2.
Right. Which the thing is, back end RB2 sounds bad until you remember that those dudes are starting in every league, right? Like just about.
Yeah.
Are they not?
Yeah. Back end RB2s are on most. Like, if he's not starting, then he's buried on some loaded team's bench, right?
Exactly. That's exactly it. it's like, yeah, if you're not starting Melvin Gordon, then you're not worried at all because you have probably at least 2, maybe 3 other backs that are awesome. So it's like my worry level on Melvin Gordon is not at all. I was much more worried about him when he fumbled last week, and it looked like Javonte Williams was going to be the only guy getting carries. So
I see Tommy in here asking who is the number 2 back behind Hines and saying, oh crap, Lindsey is back up on the Colts. Was he elevated from the practice squad? Because I know he was on the practice squad. Did they elevate him?
Yes, I think they did. I'm
Yeah,
over on
so.
Jacob
He looks like
Sanderson's
he's on
timeline right now. I trust him. He's a great analysis and analyst, and he's a huge Colts fan. So I'm checking out what he has to say right now. But it looks like he thinks Hines gets 65% of the work, and Philip Lindsay comes in to just kind of chug on running downs. Lindsay's historically, the thing with Philip Lindsay is that everyone was like, why didn't he work out? He was so good. Multiple 1,000-yard rushing seasons. He has more 1,000-yard rushing seasons than no joke, Kamara, Eckler, and Christian McCaffrey combined, right? Because they are combined for 1. He has 2. But the problem with him was he couldn't pass block. Whether it was he couldn't mentally figure out the scheme or he wasn't big enough and built for it, he was bottom 20 out of 150 backs every single year, 3 years in a row while he was there. And at a certain point, they just brought in Melvin Gordon and said, we can't, this guy's a liability. That's what happened with him, but he can still run the ball on the ground. And you're allowed to protect one player on your practice squad. I would not be surprised if the Colts saw the Javonte injury, protected Philip Lindsay so the Broncos couldn't come in and steal him away, and then elevated him. Because the Broncos did go out and steal Latavius Murray. They probably would have taken Lindsay if they had that opportunity. So this is kind of a spicy comeback game narrative, right? Kind of want to get him into a lineup on a DFS at least, just because it's kind of right.
Oh, I'm doing it. I have missed starting Philip Lindsay.
Yeah, he was good, man.
Oh my god, he brought me a couple championships that year. Philip Lindsay, you got a soft spot.
That's your boy, man. That was your boy.
That was my boy.
2 years in a row, dude. Back to back 1,000-yard seasons, right?
Philip Lindsay's a big reason why I became a lot more comfortable with that 0 RB strategy. Philip Lindsay was one of my first successful, I'm going to wait on RB and see what I can figure out. It was that first taste of the undrafted.
That sugar, that rookie. Philip Lindsay sugar.
Oh yeah, give me that undrafted player that's a top 12 RB.
Listen to these stat lines. Our boom. Pusha T is going to come after us for those royalties. Look out now. Get that oven mitt out.
Drug deal is anonymous.
So look at these stat lines. 1,278 yards from scrimmage and 35 receptions and 10 touchdowns as a rookie. That's where Simon grew his wings, dude. That's where Simon became a big dog. Next year, once again, 1,207 yards from scrimmage, 7 touchdowns, 35 receptions. And the thing is he could catch passes. So we'd always be like, why is he splitting with who was it at the time? It was like a complete bust for
Royce
Freeman, which was a pain, but it was because Royce Freeman could block on pass plays. That was the only reason Philip Lindsay wasn't playing every play. So, this guy can play, but I expect Nyheim Hines to get all the pass snaps.
Yeah, and I see Jordan in the chat saying R.I.P. Royce Freeman and Devontae.
Remember when
Booker.
he was the next Alvin Kamara?
Who, Royce Freeman or Philip Lindsay?
Yeah, Royce Freeman.
Royce Freeman.
That was what we were all saying that summer before we drafted him.
Joe, that rookie draft year, you were so hyped on the running backs that you got in that draft. You got 3 of them, right? You got Royce Freeman and 2 other guys, right?
I did.
Was one of them Saquon Barkley?
No.
Nope.
Okay,
nope.
That's not a good start.
No. I had the second rookie pick, second and third, I believe, rookie pick, and I also had another one. I think it was second, third, and fifth was what I had that year.
Please tell me you didn't take Sony Michel.
No, I didn't. I actually did not take Sony Michel. I took Rashad Penny, my second, my 102 of my rookie draft. My 103, I took Ronald Jones, and then with my 105, who was the third?
Royce Freeman.
Oh, yeah, it was Royce Freeman.
Wow, dude. So you were just like, it's like one of those spy movies where they dive and duck between the lasers, except the lasers were like Saquon Barkley and Nick Chubb.
And I just,
you were
I
able
just
to-
jumped, I
and
jumped
you were
straight
able to- No, you were able to successfully dodge all the lasers.
all
right?
the
Like,
lasers.
Nick
yeah.
Chubb, you just like do like a backflip and then like roll under.
Woo, that was close.
That was close. Even Sony Michelle would have been better than all those guys, dude.
I thought you were saying that like I'm like approaching one of those laser grids, and then I just go to try and like all sly, and I just go straight into the laser.
Into the lasers.
Immediately trip and fall into all the lasers.
Nah, that would have been too easy, bro. The lasers were the good running backs, and you were able to like cartwheel through them. You
100%.
do like a split, and then like a drop of sweat falls down, and you just barely misses.
Just barely misses Saquon. Yeah, yeah, that was brutal. I traded a lot to get those 3 rookie picks, and I got burned. I got burned big time.
There were a lot more landmines in that draft. 2018, 2017 was the one where like,
which is why I went that strategy, was
I know.
because that 2017 was the first year that I really got into Dynasty, and so I'm like I traded Doug Martin and CJ Anderson for Alvin Kamara with Simon.
We get it. We get it.
The
We
year
know you made
before,
that
and then
trade.
I had all of these good, like this Kareem Hunt was that year. It was an amazing year. Christian McCaffrey was that year.
2017 was way better than that, dude. It was like,
I got so spoiled.
it was yeah. If you started playing in 2017 or 2016 for wide receivers is just as crazy, but 2017 running backs was CMC. Luke's got some CMC, Fournette, Mixon. Like
I thought you couldn't miss in Dynasty. I thought it was foolproof.
Dalvin Cook, Kamara. Yeah, like even Kareem Hunt. But like the funny thing is, someone in your league, like that was like the biggest suicide watch year, because someone in your league in the middle of that can't miss group took Samaj P. Ryan. And they were like, let's go. Like it was literally like just all megastars, and then like smack in the middle was Samaj P. Ryan. Was Aaron Jones that year too?
I was just about to say, guys, Aaron Jones was hiding down near the bottom of this draft as well.
Nothing is more humbling for a dynasty fantasy manager than go back and look at your rookie drafts from years prior. It is so you will realize how dumb we all are.
Right.
Yo,
that's why I traded all my picks away, bro.
For Laquan Treadwell. I was so certain that dude was going to be the dude.
Here's how crazy that draft really was when you think about it, is that usually at least like 50% of these guys just straight wash out of the league. Like they're not even in the league. So even the bad guys from this draft are still in the league. And like Jamal Williams was in that draft. He's running back 6 this year, right? Samaj P. Ryan was just playing in the Super Bowl. Like even the bad running backs from that draft, Marlon Mack is still floating around. Like the only ones that are like actually out of the league are like Wayne Gallman. Like that class. Sorry, that touched nerve on the Wayne Gallman front.
Yeah, we love Wayne Gallman.
Wayne Gallman is great. I think that he's better than the opportunities that he's got, but he's also not good enough to be in the NFL, to be like an actual starter, like in the NFL. But for what he did, him filling in, I was pretty impressed watching what he did.
That dude.
If you're gonna say he's great, where are we drawing the line on not great?
Well, I meant great as a person, Coop. Are you telling me he's a bad person?
I'd say that. I didn't say that. You said that.
Here's what he's gonna do now. That is a beautiful, beautiful man. Like if you're not familiar with the way Wayne Gallman looks, Google him and look at that picture. That is a handsome, handsome man. He needs to get into some modeling or something. Like no lie, that's what Wayne Gallman needs to do next. He is so pretty.
DM and be like, hey man, you ever consider modeling?
Hey, me and my girlfriend were talking, and we think you're really, really handsome. And he's gonna be like, "Oh God, where is this going?"
He looks kind of like
handsome Squidward.
He looks kind of like handsome Squidward. He looks kind of like who's that really tall basketball player like with the Superman dunk contest? He looks kind of like Dwight Howard a little bit. A little Dwight Howard vibe.
Dwight doesn't have the pretty though. He doesn't have the same pretty that
Arsenio Hall, Jordan Lou. Yeah. Who do you guys think is the most
pretty good?
Who do you guys think
is that is pretty good.
That's a good comp.
Who do you guys think is the
How
most
did I never thought about that?
Who's the most handsome football player outside of
Darren Waller?
Darren Waller's pretty good.
I really think it's Darren Waller. That smile, man.
At one point in time, he's answered that question with Derek Carr, and I've never trusted his opinion since.
You know who's got a rugged handsomeness to him? Delaney Walker.
Delaney Walker.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, pull him up.
I mean, Saquon's got to be up there.
Yeah.
He is a
Guys,
model. He's an actual model.
Who's got the best smile, Saquon or Darren Waller?
Darren Waller.
Saquon.
You know who else has a
I haven't
great
really seen
smile,
Darren
though?
Waller smile that much.
My
Trey
Auntie
Lance.
Coopy, big Darren Waller fan. Big Darren
Really?
Waller fan. Yeah. Huge. So I don't know who's a bigger Darren Waller fan, Tommy or my Auntie Coopy. We'll have to sort that out.
I love Darren Waller. He might be my favorite active player in the NFL. I got to get a jersey over there. We got some questions in here, guys, that I wanted to answer before we move on to the next thing. The first question we had came in here from Jim. He said, "Who's a bigger loss for their team, Taylor or Williams?" I think Taylor has to be, right?
For sure, dude. They don't have a Melvin Gordon hanging around that they could just throw in there.
Yeah, they got
Honey,
99s
get
in
the Melvin
there.
Gordon.
Get me a Melvin Gordon. I mean,
It's in the attic.
Naheem Hines is more of a Mike Boone.
Joe, you're agreeing it's Taylor.
Yeah, I mean, and the Colts don't have a bunch of other options. Like it's Michael Pittman, Matt Ryan throwing to Michael Pittman and Alec Pierce, Paris Campbell, or you got Russell Wilson, who like in and of himself is a weapon, and then you got Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, all these guys. So yeah, I think it's a bigger loss for the Colts for sure.
I got to call a timeout here real quick. I went on Twitter. I was going to pull up a Darren Waller smile tweet, see if somebody tweeted a picture of it, and I was going to post it in the chat here for you guys. And I type in Darren Waller smile, and the top tweet that comes up is from this guy named Simon. And he says, "I know we're obsessed with the target share right now, but does anyone have a better smile in the NFL than Darren Waller?" So the top tweet that comes up when you type Darren Waller smile is Simon, and it's from September 13th, 2021.
That
So
is
roughly
a
a year ago,
fun fact.
a year ago today, Simon was talking about Darren Waller's smile.
God, he's so charming. It's just it's such a likable smile.
He's
that
an
dude.
angel.
Now you can see I'm just caught in like a Groundhog Day situation.
It's like, yeah,
I had the same conversation last year,
And you're gonna have it again in a couple weeks,
and I'm gonna have it
next
again
year.
every year for the rest of my life.
I can't stop talking about it. It's just it's a part of who I am now.
Honey,
Lucius has a cool.
Did you hear about Darren Waller's smile?
It's so nice. It'll make you smile too, I promise. Lucius had a question for us. He wanted to know, would you start Ramondre Stevenson over Michael Pittman? Colts are concerning. He's a little concerned about his Indianapolis Colts. JL, are you concerned about the Colts enough to start Ramondre over Michael Pittman?
Now that my internet's working, I can give a better take on Michael Pittman here. Yeah, I mean, his matchup is very tough. Going against Denver. Without Jonathan Taylor, I think it's more likely they can shut him down. They just focus the defense on Michael Pittman, keep the ball away from him. It's dangerous. Ramondre Stevenson does not have the same upside that Michael Pittman has, though, which is the difference for me. I think I'm still starting Michael Pittman, but I would make this decision somewhat based off of my matchup. If I need a Ramondre Stevenson who's going to probably more likely to get a lot more safer points versus Michael Pittman, who I need upside, then I'll go Pittman.
Yeah, man, I actually think I might just start Ramondre Stevenson. Pittman, it's kind of a scary matchup for him. Ramondre Stevenson's look pretty good. He's getting the extra work, and he gets the Lions this week, who are just bleeding points, dude. Points that whatever team comes to town. Like, funny to hear Jared Goff. You hear what Jared Goff said when they asked him about the game?
No.
He's like, we just need to score more points.
That's all, partner.
Scored 45, dude. Scored 40. Lost 45. You lost 48.
Need
to
break
45.
that 100.
He's like, we just got to score more points. Like,
that reminds
me of
my freshman year at Clemson. Clemson set the record for most wins in a season where the opponent scored at least 35 points. Like, it was just no defense all the time. Like, yeah, maybe you could score 35 on us, but you're going to have to score 50 to beat us. Like, go ahead. Just keep on scoring. And, man, watching these Lions games reminds me of that. Like, it's bringing back some nostalgia where it's just like, okay, no one's stopping anyone. Let's just see what can happen. Like, who has the ball last? Who gets in the end zone one last time before clock expires? It's fun football.
It's fun,
that's like a fan. See, like, that's the dream, right? You just get like a crazy high score.
The Patriots are the opposite of that, right? Like they are just the
Yeah.
worst for the fantasy black hole, dude. Just
Yeah,
like,
that's exactly what it is. They suck up
Yeah.
any fun.
yeah, the fantasy the Patriots are a team that loves a real nice punt, like a good, a real
Yeah, they
good
really appreciate
stick it to you down it at the 2. Matthew Slater,
Yeah.
you know, killing coin
solid
tosses.
pin.
All right,
High.
but Stevenson is just like, you know, I think moving forward, like he's kind of a lock, especially in a matchup like this for 50 plus rushing yards. So you get a question from like Jimmy Anderson, standard league, Stevenson or Gordon. I think I'm going Stevenson. I have those guys kind of back to back anyway in my PPR rankings. I think I'm going Stevenson just because he's kind of dialed in. I don't know. You guys going Stevenson or Gordon? There's upside for Gordon.
One.
But
I'm going Melvin Gordon.
One's close.
I think I'm going Melvin Gordon for the upside. They are super close, but yeah, I like Melvin Gordon in this matchup without Javonte Williams. I want to like I imagine he can't get less work than he did with Javonte in there. He's going to be the primary ball carrier for this Denver offense, and that's a little bit more than I can say for Ramondre, even if I like that matchup better.
Ooh, Will's got a tough question in there. Should I drop Pollard, pick up Hines?
No.
JL, what are you thinking there?
Absolutely not. Do not do that. You definitely do not want to do that. Pollard is going to have Pollard has standalone value, even though he's the backup there. They use him in a way that he's worth having to be able to flex week in, week out when you need or as you need. Nyheim Hines, we know what he is.
He doesn't get the carries. He doesn't have, and you're selling out. You're selling out for the short-term points, right?
Right. Yeah, I think that's a bad move because we don't even know if the short-term points are going to.
Let me throw a hypothetical at you. If Jonathan Taylor were out for the season, would you drop Pollard for Hines?
No.
I think I would.
No.
I think it would because the guy gets like 5-6 targets a game. Hines does. In full PPR. In full PPR, I think I would. But he's not out for the season, so it's just a hypothetical. But in that case, I would. But otherwise, I want Pollard.
I think I'm sticking with Pollard regardless in that scenario. He's got standalone value, and then I just don't see like Nyheim Hines. I don't know how much his value actually goes up with Jonathan Taylor out. He'll probably get more carries than he was because he was only getting like 1 to 3 carries. But I don't see him going much above like 10 carries, right? Like I don't think they want him out there like running the ball a lot during a game. I don't think that's how the Colts want to use him. They're in a bad spot if they're having to use Nyheim Hines for 15 to 20 carries a game.
Tony Pollard had a dud this week.
One time, 2 years ago, my buddy, we were drinking beers watching the game, and he goes, Nyheim Hines sounds like something Hitler would shout. And ever since then, every once in a while, it gets triggered in my mind when somebody goes, Nyheim Hines. And I'm just like, oh my God, dude. Like when Simon just said it just now. Does not sound.
Why'd you have to even put that in my mind, Coop?
Now it's in your mind.
Like
now it's in your mind too.
There now.
It lives in your mind, dude. You're just gonna be like,
Nyheim Hines suffer too.
I didn't need that in there. That was not what I needed while watching this game tonight, Coop. That's
you just said it.
Those invasive thoughts that you just threw in there. Absolutely.
You just said it in the way that triggers me, and now I can't stop thinking about it.
I'm going to say it a lot gentler from now on. You're
going to have to. You're going to have to. Yeah.
So I'm going to say it from now on to avoid that in your memory. Guys, coming up, we're going to keep on answering your questions, and we've got some news to go through as well. In a little bit, we're going to be talking our hogs and logs from tonight's game. And then we've got Jordan Vanek joining the show to talk some DFS for tonight's slate. And then a little bit later, Mike Barner, sports betting analyst for RotoWire, is going to join to talk about some prop bets for tonight. You're listening to the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show here on Bettor Sports Network.
The Playbook with Fensty and Ronis.
Alvin Kamara, if I had to guesstimate about an hour before game time, gets ruled out, and it lights the world on fire once everybody wakes up. That had Alvin Kamara still in their lineups, you've got West Coasters trying to get a redo or trying to get a sub in because it's unfair that they have to wake up so early to get him out of the lineup and make sure that everyone who's active and in the lineup should be. But isn't that fantasy football, man? Didn't we warn everyone about this?
Yeah, we had this exact conversation last week, which is why it was so funny when I saw all these people on Twitter complaining and asking for a retroactive move. Because this same situation happened the last time I think Saints were in London, and I went over the story. It involved Alvin Kamara. Same thing. My opponent had Kamara in the lineup, and in the halfway through the game, He asked the commissioner, hey, I don't even know where maybe he was California, somewhere on the West Coast. Oh, I woke up late. I didn't know he's out. Can I replace him? And the commissioner comes to me and says, hey, your opponent wants to replace Kamara. I'm cool with it if you are. I said, no, I'm not cool with it, man. This is just like anything in life. It's your responsibility. You knew that there are going to be games at 9:30 a.m. Eastern this year. I hate waking up early, but you just have to wake up early and do it.
What's stopping you from going back to bed? That's the big thing. What's stopping you from that? You get up, change your lives, go pee, go back to bed. It's one of those things that from now on, when you have anyone involved in London games that are the least bit questionable, including injuries that you see late in the week, let's say this happened, all of a sudden, minor tweak for someone, like you're still waking up that morning to make sure that player is playing. It's a few weeks a year in Rome. We're lucky that the NFL doesn't go completely worldwide and we have games in different countries every single week.
Front Yard Fantasy with Simon, JL, and Coop.
Dude, Jeff Wilson looked fantastic last night.
No,
Did you see the?
Jeff Wilson had one great 32-yard touchdown.
Did you see the run? Did you see the run?
JL, the run was incredible. But I just want to look at the rest of this stat line to tell you why I'm not excited about Jeff Wilson. 18 for 74. That's why I'm not excited about Jeff Wilson. 18 for 74 with a 32-yard run. So really, that's what's 74 minus 32. Without that one run, that's 17 for 32 yards. Or
4.1 a carry? You're complaining about 4.1 a carry?
Yeah.
Why? 4.1's not that bad.
It's jail. Without that touchdown, we're looking at a 17 for 42-yard game, which is whatever. You know what I mean? Okay, it's fine.
18 carries. You were turning your nose up at 18 carries.
I don't hate Jeff Wilson. And it's not that I won't start him. I think he's a perfectly fine start, but that's where the line ends. Anybody who thinks he's anything more than just a fine start is where I have a problem. He's just not exciting. He's not a player that's going to just completely blow up on a given week. He got the touchdown this week. You're thrilled. But next week when he doesn't get the touchdown, when he's 18 for 57 yards, you're going to be like, well, shoot, another classic Jeff week.
Better Sports Network is betting, fantasy, collectibles. It's sports talk done better.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back into the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show here on Better Sports Network. We had one very important question come in I wanted to start with before we hit this news. Tommy wanted to know if you could spend a night on an island with one football player, who would it be? So, JL, you're on an island. Let's go. Let's take this up a notch. Well, let's make it maybe less weird. This isn't any island. It is a deserted island. So this is maybe to help with survival, also company. There's a couple things that come into play here. You're not together in Aruba, at a resort.
Sandals Resort with Von Miller.
Who would you like to go to a Sandals all-inclusive resort with in the NFL? No, this isn't a contest that you won. This is, oh shoot, we're trapped on an island. Who are you being trapped on the island with?
That is a good question. Who would I be trapped on an island with? So I feel like survival is probably the first feature you got to look at here. And Aaron Donald just seems like the most obvious answer. There's not a single thing in nature that you won't be able to overcome with Aaron Donald there by your side.
Here's the problem though. I'm not going to pick anyone that I think is so much bigger than me that they might look at me and go, if they get a little hungry. You know what I mean? Aaron Donald probably looked at me and goes, that's about the size of my dinner last night. I could just roast that up and make
go the other way, get someone really fast like Tyreek Hill, who you could just piggyback on if you need to run away from something.
That's exactly the route I was thinking
sorry. Go ahead with your.
No, that's exactly the route I was thinking. Is go with a speedster, someone who could. I feel like that would come in handy on a desert.
Are they going to be a speedster if they're carrying you though? Can Tyreek Hill? How fast can Tyreek Hill run while I'm on his back?
I mean, football pads weigh around 190 pounds, right? So it shouldn't be too much different than shoulder pads.
To wash.
Tyreek Hill is probably towards the very bottom of people I would pick.
that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. The guy I would pick is Danny McCray, former safety for the Bears and the Cowboys.
Danny McCray. Okay. Jalen,
You know
you
why?
mentioned it earlier as the Sandals resort. Why are you picking Danny McRae?
Because he was on season 41 of Survivor.
There we go. Jordan
Did you
in
know
there
that, or
came in
did
and
you
said
look
he
that up?
knew it. He was on Survivor.
I've literally seen this dude make fire with his bare hands. So give me Danny McRae.
Yeah, have you guys did you ever watch Celebrity Big Brother, the US version that they did?
I never watched non-celebrity Big Brother.
Meta
Big
World
Brother.
Peace was on there, the NBA player, and after about 2 weeks, spoiler alert, he just said, "Hey guys, can you please just vote me out? I cannot be in here anymore." Like, it was
really
literally
hate
like
this.
he was like, I can't do this. Like, I'm stuck in here with the girl from Hairspray, and I just need to get out of this house.
That's a power move, dude.
Man, who am I going with? I'm probably gonna go with who's got a beard? I'm gonna go with bearded Carson Wentz. Know what I mean? Then we can take him out of fantasy lineups. It's gonna happen right now. No one has to worry about starting him anymore. With that beard, I'm pretty certain like he at least knows how to like chop down a tree. Like, right? If you have that beard, you can swing an axe. I'm almost certain of it. And he's a little bit fairer skinned, so he's probably gonna be more motivated to get off that island, right? He's a pale dude. He's not gonna want to be out there in the sun. He's gonna get me shelter fast because we need that shelter. He's gonna try to get off that island fast because he can't be stuck out there too long without SPF 70. Like, and I know we don't have that.
70.
We don't have that on us.
Yeah, Danny
So
McRae's not going to be too worried about that.
I think
We
I
got Danny
Saquon
McRae,
Barkley.
we got Carson Wentz, and we got Saquon Barkley.
I love my favorite pick in the chat. Adam Weber says, I pick Vince Wilfork. A perfect pick.
Vince Wilfork.
Because because not only is he like a nicest dude ever and a legend, but he would probably have a pig roast going by day 2. Like he would have the barbecue up and running somehow.
He'd be killing.
Vince is making it happen. So great pick.
Guys, we got a question, or we got some news that went down this week. Alvin Kamara, who has a rib injury, says, I'm going to be out there in week 5. He was listed as questionable leading up to week 4's matchup against Minnesota, when his late scratch early Sunday morning left a lot of fantasy managers in a pickle. But he seems to believe he will play this weekend against Seattle after missing 2 of the last 3 games. You guys trust him that Kamara is going to be out there on the field if he says he's going to be?
Nope.
I don't know, man.
Can't trust the player, man.
He upset the entire West Coast last week, huh?
Yeah.
I have a confession, guys.
I know.
I
know you did.
I left.
And you still
Alvin
freaking
Kamara
won,
in the
you little
lineup.
stinker.
You little weasel, dude. And you won. And you
And I
traded him
won.
away to JL and Dynasty.
It was
and you traded him away.
yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Coop.
You guys brought it up first. I didn't even know about that till now, but I'll make sure that's in the back of the mind already.
I went through all my lineups. I thought I found them and all the ones where I had them, and then one snuck through. I'm going through my scores and I see a big old 0 right there, and it really hurt my feelings. It just made me feel sad that I did that.
This is how crazy it is when you're like in the industry, you got to do all these like industry leagues and stuff, is that most people like they think it's a lot to have 5 or 6 teams. Every Sunday morning I have to check 5 or 6 websites. Like I have to check Yahoo, ESPN, MFL, Sleeper, FFPC, and real time sports. I'm not in any guillotines league. Yeah. So it's just like every day, every time there's a game, today, for instance, I have to scroll around. Dude, I have to go on fan tracks. Dude, I said 6 or 7, but it's actually more like 10. So it's like absolute nightmare situation. I've set up for myself. So yeah. All right.
Coop just has a bookmarks folder with all of his teams in it where he just clicks it and it opens up 85 tabs and he's like, okay, time to start. Has to wake up at 7 a.m. on Sunday mornings just to get through it before kickoff.
Get to work.
And then I still have time to make like 15 lineups with NFT cards on DraftKings and play in Tommy's NFT league. And I'm also going to make the FS lineups because football is awesome.
Life.
You guys remember the guy who ran out onto the field during the Los Angeles Rams game last week?
Yeah,
yes.
Well, he has now filed a police report against Rams linebacker Bobby Wagner. According to TMZ Sports, the individual is an activist for the Berkeley, California-based animal rights group Direct Action Everywhere and was trying to raise awareness for a trial involving the alleged theft of pigs from a factory farm. But he's suing Bobby Wagner after he's the one who ran out onto the field.
I think they're allowed to hit people So if I'm not mistaken, I remember hearing about that on one of the broadcasts that the players are allowed to help restrain the person who's running around. Which is why you see them all get like hyped whenever it happens, because they're like they get to go light up some civilian. Like that's like fun for some of them. Which
That's
is just
crazy,
hilarious.
Jail, the way you're
He-
describing that is like the
that.
most dangerous game. Like that short story that you read where they're like they just release a human onto
They're
the
waiting.
field and they're like, get him.
That would actually be an amazing sport. I would watch the heck out of that, dude.
They just take turns releasing people onto the field until someone tackles them. You get a point every time you tackle the guy. That would be pretty funny out there. No, but that's preposterous. It's like I feel like you see those stories. Like I feel like I've seen a story or a YouTube video. Maybe it's an urban legend about like someone who tried to break into someone's house to rob them while they were on vacation, but got locked in their garage and couldn't get out and just had to eat dog food and then sued the homeowners for not being able to get out of their garage when they were trying to rob them while they were on vacation. Like it gives me those vibes. Like this dude ran onto the field and now he's suing Bobby Wagner. Like, oh
That's
no,
so
it's the consequences of your actions. Whoa.
Hey, that is
Pretty
pretty scary.
spooky.
I don't blame him for running away from those.
It is pretty scary. Consequences of your own actions are the worst kinds of consequences.
You
It's the ones
know that the lawyers at home were watching that, and it was like that, like the Leonardo DiCaprio meme. They were just like pointing at the screen right when he got hit by Donald. He was like assault. Like I'm sure a lawyer approached that dude and was like, "Hey, I have an idea." Right?
Absolutely. Guys, we had some more news. Packers Aaron Rodgers wanted a longer London trip. He said, we're all excited. I think the reason I said I wanted to go over early was just to experience a little bit of that culture, to be able to get out and see some sights and interact with fans and shoot, go to a pub, have a Guinness or whatever the local brew is.
Golly.
Right? That sounds like a ghostwriter wrote that for Aaron Rodgers and one that they didn't pay very much. Like Aaron Rodgers doesn't say like, well, shoot, go to a pub and have a Guinness or whatever the local brew is.
I was an AI writer for sure.
He said have a Guinness or whatever the local brew is.
I just
Aaron Rodgers just sitting in that bar having a Guinness and people are like, that's from Ireland, jackass. Like that's...
he's like American made. Hey, you know what? It probably was American made because there's a Guinness factory right here in Baltimore.
A good British beer. Guinness.
British beer.
He's like, next
So
time
I
I'll
actually-
have another British beer. Can you send a Foster's over here? Foster's, British for beer.
British for beer. I looked it up because I wanted to see if like someone had to have asked this about the legal ramifications of tackling a fan. And from what I'm seeing, you're allowed to like affect on someone else that you see committing a crime, but that always opens you up. Like you can be sued. But the question is around like, are you allowed to use did you use reasonable force to effect the arrest? And so maybe that's what like the conversation will be about with Bobby Wagner is like, did he actually just get like hyped up to smash this dude?
I don't think Bobby Wagner is capable of using reasonable force.
That's what I was about to say.
Yeah,
What's
yeah.
reasonable force for Bobby
to an
Wagner?
NFL player? Yeah, it's a really good point.
Dude, like if I ran for Bobby Wagner to use reasonable force on me, I would need to run full speed into him, and he would need to like take a step backwards, and it would still
Just to
hurt
soften the
me.
blow.
Yeah, it would still actually hurt me a little bit, but like that's reasonable force for a guy like that.
God. Also, Joey in here answering the deserted island question said Cole
Beasley.
Beasley.
Imagine that.
And Joey's
Pass.
going out there with Cole Beasley.
He retired yesterday. Did you guys
He'd
see
be
that?
such a negative. He'd be out there like doing his rap songs, and I'd be like, "Would you shut up?"
Shut the hell up, bro.
You know, maybe it's a motivating force to get yourself off the island, like putting Cole Beasley there with you.
It's just like I gotta get off this island.
I would
And
build
Joey
I would build a trebuchet and launch him to the next island. That'd be my first order of business.
I feel like Meta World Peace. Like I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
We had some questions in the chat before we keep going on this news that I wanted to hit. 234 in here said on bro. So guys, this is serious. On bro.
Bro.
Do I start Judy and Hines tonight? So we were talking a little bit about Judy, talking a little bit about Hines. I think you're probably starting Judy. Judy's a probably start for me. He's a wide receiver 3, but wide receiver 3s are startable. And Hines, I'm avoiding if you can. I'm avoiding starting Hines if you have a better or comparable option that we've seen in the situation that they're currently in. What about you guys?
Yeah, neither matchup is good for these guys.
Nope.
They're pretty close. Receiver 3, or I'm sorry, receiver. I have Jerry Jeudy as a wide receiver 4 this week. I don't know that he's going to have a fantastic game. And we already talked about Naeem Hines and how, I'm not throwing him in unless I'm absolutely desperate. I see him as an RB. He'll most likely finish like RB4 or higher or lower, I guess is the right way to say that.
Yeah, here's a hot take but it's not even that hot. I think Jerry Jeudy outscores Cortland Sutton tonight.
Woo!
You guys think that's a hot take?
I'd say I water bet it.
Warm. I think it's warm.
I mean,
and Coop, I actually think I'm on your side here.
Stephon Gilmore is going to be covering one of those guys. So.
I'm just getting spicy. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm not on your side. I just wanted to be. I just got ahead of myself. I was sitting there going like, "Oh, I want Jeudy to score more points," but I think I'd.
Do you think Stephon Gilmore's washed? Do you think that Stephon Gilmore can't cover Cortland Sutton?
No, I think he can cover Jerry Jeudy better.
Why would he do that?
Because he likes
Stephon Gilmore just go in the slot.
I think he's got a crush on Jerry Jeudy.
Imagine.
I think that's what it is.
Imagine that, dude. Imagine if that was truly the case and he was like, no, I have to cover Jerry today.
Yeah, please. I could see it. I'd do it. I would do it if I had to play like one NFL game. I'd be like, yeah, let me cover the people I like.
Jerry has played 101 snaps in the slot, 59 out wide. So he is, he's probably not going to see as much Gilmore as Sutton is. Just saying. They're not going to put Gilmore on KJ Hamler or whoever is going to be opposite them. So I don't know. Oh, Kendall Hinton, not KJ Hamler. Hamler's out. Kendall Hinton. I mean, so I think Sutton's going to get a big dose of Gilmore, and that's why I think Jerry Jeudy scores more points.
That's fair. That's fair. We had a question in here from Dennis. 2 from Dennis. Dennis said, half PPR, should I start Khalil Herbert, Najee Harris, or Cam Akers? So I know we've had some Najee questions recently. JL, are you still rolling with Najee in this one, or are you switching to Herbert or Akers?
Let's see. Najee is playing against the Buffalo Bills, which is not a great matchup. Khalil Herbert has the Minnesota Vikings. Who's the third guy?
The third guy in this matchup was Cam Akers.
If David Montgomery's out, I'm definitely starting Khalil Herbert. Do we have to pick 2 or is it just 1?
Just 1.
If David Montgomery's out, I'm starting Khalil Herbert.
Yeah, Cam Akers, you can take him out of the conversation. He's not here. It's between Najee and Khalil Herbert. These guys are close, but I would give the edge to Khalil Herbert just based off the matchup against Minnesota. They're one of the easier run defenses. David Montgomery's out, then they're going to use Khalil Herbert.
I'm with you guys.
If David Montgomery plays, do we pivot?
I'm going Najee if David Montgomery
I would go
plays.
Najee for sure if David Montgomery plays.
So that's the formula. Montgomery out, go Herbert. Montgomery in, go
Najee.
I'll just
like
if Montgomery's in, I'm pinching my nose and playing Najee and just going like, oh god,
they're gonna get trounced.
14-point favorites for the Bills. Are they still sitting at 14? I haven't checked yet today. But that is just an absurd line, an absolutely absurd line. The Philadelphia Eagles, currently 4-0, the only undefeated team in the NFL, have the easiest remaining schedule of all teams. According to Power Rankings Guru, their strength of schedule. So it's looking pretty good for this Eagles team. Definitely a playoff. They're playoff bound for sure. But starting 4-0 and having the easiest schedule remaining, do you think these guys end up with that 1 seed? Are they getting that first round bye in the playoffs? Is Jalen Hurts going to be sitting out wild card weekend? Or do they come back down to earth a little bit?
I think that team is good. That defense is real good. So I think that the Eagles are probably, we should probably redo our power rankings at some point, probably soon. We should get into that. I think I might have the Eagles at 1.
Eagles are up there. I think they absolutely could get that bye. Yeah, I think they're absolutely contenders this year. The Bills are 2 of the most complete teams that I've seen in the NFL.
If we didn't have the Eagles at 1, would it be either the Eagles or the Bills? Who else would be up there if we're talking about top 5 teams right now? Maybe the Chiefs.
Ravens, Chiefs. I do think the Ravens look good up there. The Niners look like a pretty good team. Dolphins with Tua, like whenever Tua's healthy and out there, that Dolphins team looks good. Like they look like a really good team.
Ravens.
I have a hard time putting teams at the very top if I don't think they're the best team in their division, though.
Yeah. I get it. Bills, Ravens, Eagles were the ones that came to mind immediately, and then you have to include the Chiefs.
Are Bucks still up there?
They're in that next tier, I think. Like I put them in that next tier. Also, Jordan said, so throw the Bills out, Coop, saying the Dolphins are the best team in their division. He said, you can't think the Bills are the best team if you think the Dolphins are the best team.
An unbiased take from Jordan Loop. Notorious Dolphins fan, Jordan Loop.
These Dolphin fans are getting out of hand.
Got to shut them down.
Absolutely getting out of hand. Kyle Shanahan was quoted saying, we definitely want to get George Kittle the ball more. Yeah, I hope so. But also George Kittle's kind of stuck playing left tackle for a little bit here. Like, I mean, not like actually they have someone in there, but he's out there blocking. They can want to get him the ball more all they want. I'm just not sure it's the best thing for that football team until Trent Williams is back for him to be out there running routes as a receiver. Coop, what do you think? Are we going to, like, Kyle Shanahan is saying this, but do you think we're going to actually see it in practice? Mr. Tight end.
So I went back and watched that game again because I watched the game and then I looked at the numbers because I was like, oh, he probably blocked a ton, but he actually didn't. He ran 24 of 28 routes, only blocked on 3 pass plays. Then I went back and watched the game and they did have him chip a good amount, but I mean, it's honestly one year he blocked on 15.9% of his pass plays and finished as a top 5 tight end. Blocking on 3 pass plays out of 27 this week is actually a better percentage than typical. So I'm not worried about George Kittle. Wherever I have him, I'm starting him. These narratives pop up all the time. They, with TJ Blockinson and Dawson Blocks, which the Dawson Blocks one.
Dawson Blocks is a good one.
That actually is kind of true. But like, I go by the numbers. I go by what we've seen, what we know, and I know that George Kittle's gonna have big games. If George Kittle if he moved his foot over 2 inches and actually scored that touchdown this week, then nobody would say a thing. You know what I mean?
It wasn't a catch, but it was an amazing catch.
Yeah, like I think you're gonna feel in this tight end landscape. I think you're gonna feel pretty silly putting Kittle on your bench unless during the games Kittle missed, you went out and got yourself somebody that you like. You went out and got Gerald Everett and Keenan Allen's out, then I could see you starting somebody else. But for the most part, if you have George Kittle, you start George Kittle because he's awesome.
Exactly. If George Kittle's playing, you plug him in your lineup. But, man, I wish we could have a little bit more optimism. Per ESPN Insiders, according to ESPN Insiders Jeremy Fowler and Dan Graziano, owner David Tepper may show Matt Rule the door, and Steve Wilkes is the defensive pass game coordinator and secondary coach for the Panthers and the most likely interim head coach candidate if the Panthers fire Matt Rule. Please. Like this Carolina team is difficult to watch. It's difficult to watch if you like DJ Moore, if you like Baker Mayfield, if you like Christian McCaffrey, or if you just like football. This Panthers team is difficult to watch. Get Matt Rule out of there. That experiment, I think, is over. Let's start bringing these like unproven college coaches up to the NFL and just seeing what happens. Urban Meyer, Matt Rule. It's not working out, man.
Yeah, what point are you considering that as the owner of the Panthers
right now?
Realistically,
yeah. I mean, like, what are they waiting for? I'm ready to get Matt Rule out of there. The one thing that I don't know is like the contract stipulations. Know what I mean? Like, are there certain milestones he has to hit? What happens if they fire him now? But man, like I would be ready to move on now if Matt Rule was the head coach of the football team I owned.
It's tough. I wish we had a little more insight into some of these, just like the decision making of some of these organizations.
I mean, we do know that he, like, when they signed him to a 7-year contract, $62 million, and as part of that, they had to pay Baylor to get him out of the other contract. So that's probably why he has such a long leash, is that they're literally in the whole money from buying out his contract, whatever it was at Baylor, and then giving him another contract. So that's probably why there's hesitation. Because I mean, dude, the fans want him out. That's for sure. Check the Panthers subreddit. Find me. Hey, how about this for a scavenger hunt? Find me one positive Matt Rule comment on the entire Panthers subreddit over the last year,
and I'll show you a Matt Rule burner account. If you show me one of those.
Needle in a haystack, dude. Yeah. Matt Rule's on there. He's like, I think he's fine, dude.
And really handsome. And I heard he's really good at cornhole too. Like just the world's best cornhole player. Jordan in the chat saying the golden rule: lose unto others as you'd have them lose unto you. Yep, Matt Rule always following that one, Jordan. Just a real man of that golden rule over there.
Pretty rough stuff.
Guys, coming up, we're going to be talking some Week 5 hogs and logs. And then our friend Jordan, who I see over in the chat, what's up, Jordan, is going to be coming on to talk some DFS plays for tonight. Maybe some more Week 5 DFS as well. And then after that, we've got our friend Mike Barner coming on to talk some prop bets for tonight's Thursday night football game. If you guys are enjoying what we're doing over here, make sure you head on over to our YouTube channel at Front Yard Fantasy. There's more of our handsome faces. There's more games like the ones we play on here and more fantasy analysis. So you're going to make sure you're subscribed over there with that notification bell on. Right now, you're listening to the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show here on Bettor Sports Network.
Collectible moments.
Everybody up here at U.S. Cellular. Sox 5 runs, 6 hits. The 2-1 to Bartlett. Swing, chop to short. Ramirez has it, throws. Farley picks the perfect game. His second no-hitter. People going crazy here at U.S. Cellular. He's mobbed by his teammates. A perfecto.
Now there's a steal by Bird. Underneath the DJ, lays it in. Right out, one second left. What a play by Bird. Bird stole the impounding pass. Laid it up to DJ. DJ laid it up and in. And Boston has a 1-point lead with 1 second left.
Out of the I formation on first down. Peterson the carry, looking for running room on the right side, has it to the 25, across the 30, across the 35, and out of bounds at the 40-yard line. Adrian Peterson has just gone over 2,000 yards for the season, the 7th man in NFL history to cross the 2,000-yard mark.
Well, a thundering ovation for number 66, Mario Lemieux.
Just the emotion I'm sure Mario is feeling in this place. You don't appreciate something until it's gone, and it's so great to have Mario back.
Yager turns around. Over to Lemieux. Mario Lemieux, his first goal in his comeback here tonight at the Mellon Arena. And the Penguins lead 3-0, and he is smiling like a butcher's dog. Mario Lemieux.
Oh, the band is out on the field. He's going to go into the end zone. The Bears have scored, but the bands are out on the field.
Pearson moves in front of the STP Dodge. Petty comes back to the inside. They almost touch as they move down low in the bank, and you're going to be side by side as they exit the bank and head for the finish line.
Richard Petty goes back in front. They both spin. They're in the wall. Petty is sliding, slamming into the wall. He's coming down toward the finish line. Will he make it? Pearson is still running. The winner is car number 21. An amazing finish. Richard Petty's car demolished in the front end, as well as car number 21. An unbelievable finish, a terrible crash. David Pearson has won the Daytona 500. Leitner catches, comes down, dribbles, shoots, scores! Christian Leitner has hit the bucket at the buzzer! Pitched by Downing, swinging, there's a drive into left-handed field. That ball is going to be out of here. It's gone. It's 7-15. There's a new home run champion of all time, and it's Henry Aaron.
The most valuable player is Magic Johnson. 42 points, 15 rebounds, and 7 assists. He starts at center, plays forward and guard, and leads the Los Angeles Lakers to a world championship 123-107 over Philadelphia.
Whether you collect sports memorabilia, fantasy championships, or winning bet slips, talk about it on Bettor Sports Network.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show here on Bettor Sports Network. JL, I thought for sure you were frozen like that you weren't holding that face that long. How long can you hold that face? Man, almost as long as it takes to realize you're unmuted, I think is how long you can hold that face.
10 years is what I said, which lines up on both accounts.
10 years.
10 good old years. Also, I see Scott Fish in the chat saying, how much is Kittle blocking? Seems like a lot, but I saw his RR/DB last week was like 26 out of 31 routes run per dropbacks is what that stands for, guys. Last week was 26 out of 31. Just one red zone target this year. Over his last 8 games, including playoffs, he just has one game over 30 yards and just one touchdown. It's been worse than Pitts. putting some context onto the Kittle games recently.
Yeah. So to put some perspective on that, Scott, I actually just mentioned it before, but I saw the same numbers with the route running. So I went back and actually watched that game again, and he's not fully staying into block any more often than he normally would. In fact, it's less than he has in some of these elite seasons. He blocked 15% of his snaps one year and finished top 5, which he's the only guy to do that since like Rob Gronkowski, primetime Rob Gronkowski with the Patriots, like 2010. So he's the one guy that's capable of having big games in that instance. But it did seem that they had him stay in to chip a little more. And where you see that is in his average depth of target, which is down a little bit compared to typical. I think he's going to have big games. I'm not going to they're not going to have George Kittle play left, just stay in and block the whole entire game. They're not going to do that. So I think he's highly capable of big games. Maybe he's not for now, in the Andrews Kelsey tier, which is asking a lot. Those guys basically play wide receiver every snap, but I think he's a guy that is still going to be in my top 6-7 for weekly rankings, depending on if Keenan Allen plays. That shows where Gerald Everett moves. So George Kittle for me, I'm starting him pretty much everywhere where I have him because there's just not enough situations where you have a bunch of elite tight ends to start over. So I wouldn't be too worried about Kittle. I get him in there for this week at least.
God, I traded for George Kittle, not this past offseason, but 2 off seasons ago in a dynasty league because I was sick of playing that tight end roulette. I was sick of running through CJ Uzama and Cameron Brate and OJ Howard on my bench, just trying to pick the guy who's going to get a touchdown each week. So I traded for George Kittle. And since then, it's really felt like I've gotten 4 George Kittle games, maybe all of last season going into this year where I'm happy I started him or even could start him where he wasn't injured. It just hasn't been that George Kittle we've been used to. Injuries and then usage in that offense.
Here's the thing about George Kittle, and this is why for me, Mark Andrews and Kelsey were kind of on a different tier than these other guys, is that there's certain players that require specific situations to realize their upside. And over the course of a season, it doesn't look as good as from week to week, it doesn't look as good as it does at the end of the year. One of them is Darren Waller, right? When you go back and look at Darren Waller's seasons, it wasn't like he was always producing every week. It would be that he would have these games where he'd have 15 targets, 16 targets, 17 targets, and you would just win that week. That was the beauty of Darren Waller compared to Kelsey, who's very consistent, Andrews, who's very consistent. And then George Kittle is kind of the opposite, where he would never have these monster target games, but he's one of the only tight ends in the league he is the only tight end in the league over the last 5-6 years that has multiple 80+ yard touchdowns. He has 3 touchdowns. In one season, he had 3 touchdowns that were over 75 yards. He's deceptively fast. He runs a 4.5 40. And when they run this play action, it's so easy to run a play action offense when you have this kind of offensive line that they get him in space and he just breaks off huge chunks. That's the George Kittle that we know and love. And we're going to see there's going to be games where he breaks off 40, 50-yard plays. And you look at the stat line and you're like, oh, yeah, George Kittle's fine. But that's the problem with him is that you need those plays to happen. And when they don't, it can look kind of bad. So keep your eye out for that. This could very well be a game where he has a 60-yard touchdown and everyone's like, oh, Kittle's fine.
Yeah, I mean, the only 2 matchups we've seen him in this year have been against Denver and the Rams. So presumably he's going to have an easier go of it. He's got Carolina, Atlanta, Chiefs, and then Rams again. So it's a bit mixed, but at least the next 2 games, I would expect to see George Kittle have a bigger fantasy performance just because these underlying metrics are pointing towards that. And like you said, Coop, he's just barely missed that touchdown pass this last year. I think that, Kittle is that type of guy where if he has those big either break off play, like a big yak play or a touchdown play, that's when he shines.
To put in perspective, right? Here are the top 5 guys in terms of last 5 years having 40+ yard plays. I've been charting this in an Excel sheet painstakingly by hand. Just kidding. It's not that difficult. But the top 5 guys there's 4 players that are tied with 5 40+ yard plays. But dude, a couple of them are Vernon Davis and Rob Gronkowski that aren't even in the league. You have Gerald Everett, Evan Ingram with 5 40+ yard plays. Then you have Jared Cook with 7, not in the league anymore. Then you have Travis Kelce with 10, he's second, and George Kittle with 12. So George Kittle is rattling off monster plays at a rate that no one else is even close. There's only 4 tight ends in the league that are even have 5, and he has 12. So this guy is capable of monster plays. That's why you put him in the lineup.
Yeah, that makes sense. I saw Jordan in there saying Yak Daddy. Yeah, that's an appropriate name for George Kittle right there. Jill, when you said Denver and the Rams, I don't know why. What immediately came to mind was like a big group of burly men on stage at a honky tonk playing some like real gentle like folk music, like we're Denver and the Rams. Hope you enjoy our soft tunes. And they got like a stand-up bass for sure. And the guy's name is Denver. He's a good old country boy. And they're like this loving group of gentle giant men playing folk music on stage.
It's the second time you said honky tonk in the show this week.
Hey, the first time someone else typed it. Yeah, it's a honky tonk kind of week. It's because we're taking the show to Nashville, babe.
All right, I almost texted you guys last night because it was like 1 a.m. I was trying to go to bed, and I get up to go to do like the final bathroom trip before you go to sleep. You decide, all right, I'm going to bed, and in my head I just hear Coop saying, "Skip diddly doo,
diddly doo, going to Nashville now." Oh yeah,
and I heard it so clearly in my mind. I was just like, "Damn, Coop is just living rent free, skiddly doodling all over my mind."
Craig said you 3 in a remake of Deliverance would be scary, but I'd watch. I believe it or not, based on the movie conversation that we had the other day, I have never seen Deliverance. I don't even know a general idea of what that is about, or if I should have said it out loud. I trust Craig though, so I will read anything Craig puts in the chat.
I'll go ahead and tell you, you don't need to watch Deliverance, but you should watch Goodfellas, bro. Like you should watch some of those other movies. But yeah, that movie little bit rough.
Should I watch Goodfellas instead of the Colts Broncos game tonight? And then tomorrow, while you guys are talking Colts Broncos, I'll just randomly jump in with my analysis of Goodfellas instead. Like
I honestly think that's for you as a person, that's probably the most important thing here. Although Goodfellas will always be there for you, whereas the football is fleeting.
Yeah, but I don't know if Russell Wilson's really there for me right now. Like, I don't know if this Broncos team is like there for me. Like, if it's going to be like an experience where I'm like, man, sure am glad I watched this Colts Broncos game tonight. Like, I'm just getting bad vibes, man. It's Thursday night. Jonathan Taylor's out. Javonte Williams is out. Russell Wilson hasn't looked great in this offense. Like, we've seen some real stinkers from the Colts, like a 24-0 loss to Jacksonville. And then this Denver offense is good. Like, this might just be gross. This might just be disgusting to watch.
Just like Deliverance.
Just
like, and Jordan saying 7-6 final. If I swear, if I am tired tomorrow because I stayed up to watch this whole game and the final score was 7-6, I'm not going to do anything except be a little bit upset about it. But I promise I'll do that. I'm going to be a little bit angry about it. We had a question in here in the chat that I wanted to hit before we talk some of our hogs and logs for tonight's game. This one came from Tyler, I believe. Tyler wanted to know, should I drop Allen Robinson for Rachaad White? I have Leonard Fournette starting. So would you guys drop Allen Robinson? This is 2 questions, really. Like, Rachaad White, is he worth that pickup? And if so, are you dropping Allen Robinson for him?
I can't do it. I know everyone's upset with Allen Robinson. I know it's disappointing. What you expected. This is what we do with Allen Robinson. You know, at this point, we've done it so many times that this is sort of par for the course. If you've ever had hope for Allen Robinson in the past, I still think that there's hope for him at least this season. I don't think he's like a total dud in the sense that he's just not. He's going to continue getting like 1 to 3 points a game. I think they'll figure out a way to get him more work to the offense, and I would rather take that bet than the bet on.
Yeah, Rachaad White, like this game for me, it's what just kind of for dynasty owners, excellent, right? Got to be pumped. You got more usage this week than Keyshawn Vaughn has in his entire career so far, so you got to be pumped about that. But from a redraft standpoint, it took a pretty specific set of circumstances for Rachaad White to get in there and get that work. I think he does have a little bit of a role moving forward, but not one that's any greater than Nyheim Hines, right? I mean, like he only got 3 carries, worked in on pass plays. Like, I don't think you have to go crazy trying to acquire him.
Yeah. Guys, we are going to get into our next segment here called Hogs and Logs. We are looking for the Hogs from tonight's game and the Logs from tonight's game. The Hogs are guys that are going to kill it smash plays, hog plays, and a log. Man, that dude just went out there and laid a log on the football field. This is someone who's going to bust for your team tonight. JL, you want to kick us off with a hog or a log? Your choice, man.
Yeah, I could start us off.
I see Hal in the chat saying no hogs, all logs.
No hogs, all.
Could be an all log game, dude. Could be.
It might be. All right. First log. First log for me is Alec Pierce. He had a pretty good week last week. He had 10 points in half PPR format. That was 4 receptions on 6 targets, 80 yards. I don't think Alec Pierce is going to be a factor in tonight's game. He's a log.
Ooh, logging Pierce. I mean, the thing is, he's not really logging a lot of snaps, right? Like, even though he did put up some points, he only played 29 of 65 snaps. That's not even 50%. So I'm with you on that. Yeah, not super exciting. So I'm fully with you on there. Probably logged on Pierce. I don't know. What do you think, Simon?
Yeah, no, he's a log. This isn't expected to be a high-scoring game, and I expect any of the targets to run through Michael Pittman for the most part. Alec Pierce seems like a second, if not third thought in this offense, right? Like they found some comfort with other receivers in this offense while Alec Pierce was out, and I don't think he's just going to step in and automatically be like the dude. He's not going to be in there and start getting all these targets willy-nilly, especially against a pretty good Broncos defense, right? Like it's a tough matchup for a position for a player who hasn't been getting maybe the volume that we expected him to with how wide open that wide receiver room looked at the beginning of the season. This isn't the game where I'm taking my shot. Log, you're a log.
Yeah.
Something I haven't made in like 6 days.
There you go, dude. Perfect. Share it. What else you got to share, John?
Oh, sorry. If I wasn't clear there. I've been having diarrhea, which is why I haven't. It wasn't me not this. I wanted to clarify in case anyone thought I was constipated. That's not the case.
Keith got his mic. So I actually have a log and a hog for you. The log is going to be a real quick one. Albert Okwuegbunam, you absolutely cannot start him in any leagues. And, I just have to mention this for anybody that's not plugged in and doesn't go and look at the snap counts and might not, follow that closely. This dude was supposed to be like the breakout candidate. He's got a great profile, runs a 4.5. He's got like 96, 98th percentile speed for the position. They're just not using him. He only played 1 snap this week, even though he's seemingly healthy. Eric Saubert played a ton of snaps. He led the team, did terrible pass blocking. So did Eric Tomlinson, oddly. But like those guys are playing more snaps, presumably for their blocking ability. Okwuegbunam's not playing at all. Like, so if you were thinking about getting cute in DFS and throwing him in there, or a lot of people just kind of jump into DFS without knowing what's going on, that guy's not even playing. So he's a log for sure. On the hog side. Sorry.
Before we move on, I saw a question from Hal saying, what's up with that rookie tight end in Denver? I think the latest is Dulcich is staying on the IR, right? Like he's going to be on the IR. He's not playing.
He won't come out.
He won't come out. He's like, no, I'm staying here. But Dulcich will not be on the field in week 5.
Which is terrible news for fantasy football, because when you activate a guy from IR, they don't actually have to play right away. You have like 3 weeks to then further elevate him. So like, if they're not activating him from the IR, that actually kind of tells us that they don't even know if he'll be ready within 3 weeks, which is kind of scary from that standpoint. Kind of disappointing, because we were hoping that there would be a fantasy relevant tight end on that team. He's a converted wide receiver, which is what we like to see, right? We were as much of a meme as it is, we do want to see guys, unless they're drafted in the first round or second round as just pure elite tight ends. We want to see guys that are converted wide receivers, converted quarterbacks, and of course, basketball players. Like, that's what I want to see. I want to see like dudes that like, if a guy isn't going to get drafted until the 4th or 5th round of the NFL draft, I want it to be because he's didn't play football until like his sophomore year of college. Didn't even know what it was, right? Like, because there's raw upside there if he can learn the game, learn the position, right? You want that raw talent. But so this is that kind of guy, converted wide receiver. But you're going to have to stash him on an IR spot and wait, because if they're not going to activate him, if they're not going to take him off IR, that means he's not going to be ready to play within a couple of weeks. Scary.
Yeah, and then let's stick with the logs for a minute here before we start throwing some hogs out there. I got a log for you guys, and this one might make some people upset, but I got Nyheim Hines on that log list. I think it's a trap. I think it's a trap with Jonathan Taylor out to plug Nyheim Hines into your lineup. like this isn't a guy who was getting some work, right? And I don't think this is a guy that they expect to hold up to a massive workload. He's been getting between 1 and 3 carries every game this season. And last year it was much the same for the majority of the year. It wasn't until the end of the year where he started racking up like 6, 9. But those are like highs for him. I just don't see a world where the Colts are like, this is the dude that we're going to give 15 to 20 carries to. It's not going to happen. Maybe he gets 6 catches. Maybe he gets in the end zone. But this is a tough Broncos defense. I am not counting on a Nyheim Hines touchdown. And without a Nyheim Hines touchdown, I think you're going to be left going, thought that was going to be a better start with Jonathan Taylor out. Like, I just don't think it's the slam dunk that it seems like. It's not the clear backup situation that we were hoping for with Nyheim Hines. I think his role stays similar to what it is now, just with maybe a couple more carries thrown in there. His receiving work's not going up too much with Jonathan Taylor out. He'll probably still get the 5 to 6 targets that he normally sees and maybe 5 to 6 extra carries.
Yeah, I mean, how many carries can the guy how many targets can the guy really get? Like, are they going to give him 12? I mean, maybe.
No, I just don't think so.
He lives in that 6 area. That's like his nice range. Nyheim Hines is the type of guy that I don't know that, like, I agree with you, Simon. He's not a hog. But I'm not also ready to commit that he's a log in this game because there's where else, what they have to run plays.
Don't say it. I was going to say, don't say it,
They have to run plays. So they're going to put the ball somewhere. And Nyheim Hines, as far as we can tell, is the guy there, outside of what was it, Phillip Lindsay and Deion Jackson.
Yeah.
I think Nyheim Hines could go off. I'm just like, I don't have enough confidence to say either way here, which makes me want to back off, right? It makes me want to step away from it and be like, no.
I mean, I think the Bears have proven that you actually don't have to run offensive plays.
That's true, I guess. Yeah.
But most teams that rings true, Jail, but I actually have seen a team go out there. And I've seen a quarterback drop back and not throw it on the pass plays. Yeah, so 65%, 60, what is it? He drops. I pulled up the stats on this dude. 90% of quarterbacks, when they drop back the ball, they throw it, which makes a lot of sense. You would think that number would be close to 100, but sometimes there's throwaways, sometimes there's sacks, right? So about 10% of those dropbacks don't actually result in pass attempts. Mobile quarterbacks, sometimes those guys can be in like 80% range, like 85, 86. That's where like Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts live, because basically it's like you have that 10%, and then of course they run the ball. So you add the run plays, and that's how you get down there. Justin Fields at 67%. So he's dropping back and only when he drops back for a pass play, not a designed run play, a pass play, he only throws the ball 2/3 of the time. That is a serious problem there. He's getting sacked. Absurd. He's scrambling and not for a lot of yards. He's throwing passes that Pro Football Focus doesn't even count as targets. So if you just throw it away or throw it out of bounds, that doesn't count as an attempt. Those are a third of the dropbacks result in basically non-plays for just.
That's absurd. Like whenever you're going through and like making projections for the full year, right? And and you lay out all the pass attempts and all this stuff, and like pass attempts to targets never quite lines up, but it's usually by like 8. Know what I mean? Or like 7 out of like hundreds of pass attempts, not a full like truly. You'll have like a quarterback with like over 400 pass attempts, and there will be like 8 that weren't officially counted as targets. Not 40 or 60 or 70, which is what it would have to be a third. Like that's insane.
That's what I'm saying. Like, listen to this. Here's a stat that puts that in perspective.
Absurd.
Here's a stat that puts it in perspective. They're calling the plays. Like, obviously they're calling them at the lowest clip in the league because they're running the least number of plays, but they've called, according to PFF, they've called 100 pass plays. So if you look at Ryan Tannehill, he has 112 drop. So Fields has 100 dropbacks. Tannehill has 112. Mariota has 115. Like, that's not that far off, those guys.
Yeah.
But somehow Fields only has 67 attempts while Tannehill has 101 because he's just not throwing it. So it's like the coach at a certain point is honestly, he can be like, you know what? I'm calling the pass plays. The dude isn't throwing the ball. So that is part of it for me. Like, he needs to sit back in the pocket and throw the ball a few times. Throw the ball, Justin.
Yeah, 67 passing attempts compared to the Colts 154. That's
Crazy.
Yeah, 67 is wild. Well, I mean, the next closest is the Falcons at 98 passing attempts.
Yeah, I mean the Jets. How many times have the Jets? The Jets have to be leading the league, right?
The Jets are leading the league at 193.
insanity, and he has 67, dude. Like, no wonder
got
Tyler
67.
Conklin's good and Cole Kmet isn't. And Cole Kmet played 61 of 62 snaps. So the analysis, like my analysis, a lot of
34%
people's
of it.
analysis on that the dude would play every snap and run every route, that's happening. It's just the quarterback, they're not calling pass plays, and when they do, the quarterback doesn't throw it. What do you want me to do?
That's wild. Yeah.
Right? That's your problem. There's your moondog problem, right? It's like lift up the hood, Simon. There's your moondog problem right there, bud.
Yeah.
Like, they're not
staring
throwing the
right
ball.
at you.
Yeah.
Makes me
Sad boy Simon.
Makes me very sad. We had some questions in here before we get to our hogs for this game. Tyson had a question here and said, 12-team league, Godwin or Drake London in that flex spot. Are you throwing in Chris Godwin or Drake London?
God Kid Wonder. He's back. He played like every snap this week. He's Chris Godwin. Sign me up.
What about you, JL?
Wait, did you say Godwin, Coop? I couldn't tell if it was Coop, if Kid Wonder was Godwin.
I
or
said
if it was
the God Kid Wonder.
God Kid Wonder. Okay, I got it. Because I feel like a lot of people could describe Drake London as
Also
a Kid Wonder.
Yeah.
Also Kid Wonder.
The Drake Kid Wonder. Yeah,
These guys are super close. The tiebreaker for me, they're going up against each other. And the matchup on one side is much easier, right? For Tampa Bay, they're pretty good at pass defense. And Atlanta is not a very good pass defense. So I'm going to go Chris Godwin as well.
The tiebreaker for me is that one of them is Chris Godwin.
That too. But you can make the argument Drake London's got the talent of Godwin, just hasn't reached it yet. You know, hasn't turned that potential into kinetic energy yet.
Well, what do you have last week? Two catches. He had a tackle last week, I think, too.
Yes.
If you count IDP
if you
points.
cherry picked just last week, for sure, yeah, definitely definitely a bust.
What do you have the week before?
I would call Drake London 3
receptions the week before that. Pretty good.
Yeah, you're right, Coop. Drake, is this the hill you want to die on? Drake London sucks.
That's where you want to end up?
I think Drake London's fine, dude. Not Chris Godwin.
Yeah, right.
Not Chris
Coop
Godwin.
hates Drake London.
Why isn't Chris Godwin even a wide receiver 3 this year, bro? What the hell?
Got
wide receiver 82 in PPR. Trash.
He's got pretty much the same number of targets as London.
Trash
he
garbage.
missed 2 games. He got the same number.
Yeah, well,
Drake London, the same number of targets. Yeah, pick him out, dude. Show me the ones that
31% snap share in week 1. I think Chris Godwin's falling off, guys.
How about we make a bet? Who gets more points this week? Godwin or London? Loser talks like Batman for the entire 3 hour show.
I just picked Godwin. I just picked Godwin though, out of the 2 of those guys.
Yeah, put your voice where your mouth is, dude.
Put your mouth where your mouth is.
Put your mouth where your mouth is.
Put your Batman where your mouth is, bro.
My Batman's always in my mouth.
Dude, also, I saw loser does the entire Monday show as Bane.
With Bane.
I was born in the Godwin.
We don't want to take this out on the chat.
This is I can't even do Bane. I can't even do Bane. Oh God, I'm gonna have to. I went and tried, and then one word came out. I was like, that is not Bane. Guys, coming up, we're going to be talking some hogs with our friend Jordan Vanek, as well as some of our favorite DFS plays for tonight's game. And then our friend Mike Barner's joining the show a little bit later as well to talk some props for tonight, some player props, some of his favorite bets. Right now, you're listening to the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show here on Bettor Sports Network.
It's sports talk done better.
Coop, we did have a question for you. Get in the Game wants to ask if you could create an all tight end team. Like, who would be your top tight ends? Like your favorite guys that you would put on your all tight end team?
Or does he want me to do an all tight end team where I fill out all the positions? Because I could do that.
That could
too.
work as well. Yeah, you want to do that?
So a wide receiver 1, split end would be Kyle Pitts.
Checks out. I knew you were going to say Kyle Pitts.
Yeah. Now on the other side, I would have Jimmy Graham.
Okay.
At the actual tight end slot, inline tight end, I'd have Rob Gronkowski.
Okay.
In the slot, I would have Tony Gonzalez, who under Chan Gailey for the Chiefs back in mid 2010s, he led the league in routes run from the slot. Now at quarterback, I would have Logan Thomas, a converted quarterback that now plays tight end. Right at running back, give me Jonnu Smith, a guy that has multiple rushing touchdowns. He could bring it up and down the field. At left tackle, give me Michael Pruitt, one of the premier blocking tight ends in the league. At right tackle, give me Nick Boyle.
Are you doing this all off the top of your head?
Of course.
At guard,
so impressed.
like, we're going to fill out the line with the best blocking tight ends that I can think of. So actually at center, give me a guy that's been a captain on a team, because you need a strong, smart player at center. Give me
leadership.
Mercedes Lewis, a guy that's been in the league for a long time, one of the premier blockers. At guard, you're gonna want a little speed, a little heft. So I'll take a current guy, Albert Akwe-Bunam. I'll put him 6'6", 260, put him at left guard, have him do some swing routes, have him run around. At right guard, I'll take give me Jason Witten. Just give me a big monster to throw in.
Get him
there.
out of the booth.
Throw down the run blocking. And
Can we put this in like a graphic?
as my fullback, move tight end, I'm gonna go with a guy that's played a bunch of fullback. He's played a bunch of move tight end. Very underrated. Give me Chris Cooley, former Redskins tight end, move tight end, Chris Cooley. So that would be my all-time tight end offense. If you need
Now
it.
radio personality
I
in
am
the DMV.
I am so impressed. Not just like you didn't just pull out those names and you didn't stop after the positional guys. You said we're talking O-line here too, because that's an important part of the offense. Coop, I could not put together a better all tight end team right now.
Now put
I can
it full
promise
depth
you that.
chart together.
You'd be insane to do it.
Punter,
I feel like
Coop.
I feel like a maniac just having done that. But
Who's the punter and who's kicking field goals?
Punter easily is going to be Algie Crumpler, because right off the top
Best
of my
name
head,
I've ever heard.
kind of sounds like punter. Seems like he could boot the ball.
Crumpler the punter.
Algie
Crumpler,
Crumpler.
punter. And then for kicker, we just want to have as many all-time greats on the roster. So give me Antonio Gates.
Better Sports Network. It's sports talk done better.
Welcome back into the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show here on Better Sports Network. Joining us right now, we have one of our great friends in this industry, Jordan Vanek, coming on the show. For those of you that do not know Jordan, this dude is a DFS guru. He's the head of DFS over at the 33rd team. Jordan, so excited to have you on with us here today. What's up, Jordan? Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Is it a little blank on my end? Am I green right now?
Yeah, we see you're real quiet. We got you real quiet too. Can't hear you so well.
Oh, I can turn myself up, but
oh, there we go.
So yeah, no,
Crank it to 11 and tear the knob off, my dude. Let's get loud.
Let's get loud.
Yo.
Yeah, no, I mean this is it's been a good week to say the least, and I'm looking forward to this week 5.
You wanna tell us a little bit about your week 4, Jordan? I think before we get into week 5, let's hear a little bit about your week 4.
Yeah. What does it feel like to be so rich and smart and handsome?
Yeah, no, for me, this past week, there was a good week with calling the Geno Smith stack. I got the right run back with Hawkins and was able to turn about 850 into 20K this weekend.
Hell yeah. Hog Jordan.
That's a hog
was
move.
all over Eckler. Eckler ended up being in 80% of my builds this week, which is a very, very high number for a player of that caliber, and running it back with Brandon Cooks and most, but some Dameon Pierce was pretty nice. And then I had a ton of J.K. Dobbins. I felt like if I wasn't playing that game, that is the route I wanted to go. I stayed away from Gabe Davis, Stephon Diggs. I looked at the weather and decided that, like, yeah, Josh Allen might be able to throw in this weather, but can his receivers catch the football? I don't know if you guys saw that NFL films of Devonta Smith trying to catch a football when in this past weekend, and it was rain and cold, and the ball literally slipped through his hands and hit him in the face a few times, and he's like, I don't like this weather.
Yeah, we actually, not to brag, but I will. Simon, we do like a little core DFS lineup. Simon picked the Geno Smith DK stack, which I saw you had in the $20,000 lineup. I picked TJ Hawkinson, and then we had JL pick our running back. JL, did you pick Austin Eckler? Because that's what Jordan picked, and he won like $1 bazillion.
I did not. I picked Najee Harris.
Oops.
Yeah.
It happens. It happens.
Yeah.
You know what? We're not
That's meat bonk.
Meat
Meat
bonk.
bonk. That's why we're not rich and famous like you.
And Jordan, just this week, I believe you got to stream with someone pretty cool, right? You got to meet someone and stream with someone pretty cool, talking some DFS, right?
Yeah, I got to talk with Greg Jennings about.
God, that's so sick.
Oh,
That's so sick. Hopping on a stream with Greg Jennings. How was that?
It was surreal, talking football in a way of, it wasn't like solely fantasy focused. There was a lot of routes, like what do you want to do? What are you seeing in this coverage? So it was definitely one of the cooler shows that I've ever done. And honestly, I was probably smiling ear to ear like harder than I was this past weekend during that show because I got to find out, I think on Saturday, that we were going to be doing that. So it just got me, that was what I was looking forward to all weekend. And Greg is one phenomenal player, and being able to discuss some of like the receiver duos in today's NFL, what he's seeing to combine with the data that I'm bringing in. It feels like it helped the process this week, especially with this Thursday night game between Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah, that's sick. I mean, dude, if I was Larky, Josh Larky, who's works over there at 3013 with you guys, doing a great job, I would have definitely found a way to weasel my way onto that show. Did he get on there at all, or was it just you two talking?
It was just us. He actually got a show with Marty Mortenwig. He did an hour show with Marty Mortenwig, and they discussed like some of the offenses, like what they're both seeing. Marty was asking a ton of questions about betting, fantasy, and some of that our side, I guess, of the spectrum. And I actually found out that Marty, in his years as a coach, he would use betting totals into some of the decision making at the end of games. And
That's
what it was,
super
it's
fascinating.
like if you were an underdog on the road and say you scored a touchdown to make it 20-19, you go for it. Similar to what the Giants did against the Titans in week 1. I wonder if Dable saw, because I believe the Giants were 9-point underdogs in that game on the road. If Vegas feels like the more the game goes on, the more likely you are to kind of lose. That's where it comes down to like, well, as a coach, why not, if I get this 2-point conversion, I win the game. Why not go for the play that I can control rather than trying to play the whole entire game? So that was one of the cooler things that I remember pulling from Marty's conversation with Josh, because thinking like, dang, they actually look at betting totals and not so much for hey, we're superior underdogs in this matchup, but like, hey, if we're in this decision, we're supposed to lose by 10. So let's just go for the win. Let's just make that 2-point conversion play. Let's try to get it on our side and then play some defense for like 20 seconds and walk out of here with a W.
I mean, those dudes like Vegas,
fantasy.
They're not making it up over there, right? Like they got the number crunchers. They got the right info over there. The nerds, dude. Nerds rule the world, right?
That's the best part about fantasy sports and sports betting is you think it's this like this jock filled industry, right? Like we love sports, but really it's just a bunch of nerd ass dudes who love numbers and football, right? Like it is those two things. Like it's not like the jocks running this space. It's the numbers nerds, it's the stats nerds, it's the analytics nerds that are running the world in sports betting.
Then you got cool dudes like Jordan Vanek too, though.
Yeah, well, not everyone can be cool like Jordan. Know what I mean? We got to have those people in this space that we aspire to be. Jordan, we have Tommy in the chat wanting us to drop some DFS expert insight for tonight's showdown. So he didn't specifically say your name, but with DFS expert in there, I'm pretty sure this one's directed your way. For tonight's showdown, are there any players that are jumping off you as like these are hogs? I got to get them into my lineup.
So
please use the word hog.
Okay, so
as many times as you can.
The hog that I guess it would start with would obviously Cortland Sutton. Like it's not a crazy expert knowledge in that regard, but he's definitely a hog in this one because the familiarity he has with Russ. He's able to kind of make these contested catches, which Gus Bradley's defense is 57% of the time they're playing cover 3, similar to the Legion of Boom in the early like 2010 era. So speaking with Greg, me and him were going over like what type of routes would you want to be in, and it's like these in-breaking routes that kind of find the soft spot in the zone. And from what we've seen so far this year, Jeudy struggled with reading that portion of the field. Like if you've ever seen it where it feels like Judy's open, but Russ throws it to the other side of him, Russ wanted him to go to that side. They're not in sync with that regard. Cortland Sutton is, and Cortland Sutton, Russ can put it up to him on the sideline, expect him to make those contested catches. And that's the biggest key in this factor. And if Jeudy is capable of figuring out those soft spots, he's going to have a massive day. I think on the year, they're pretty much similar in terms of production, where Judy has 63 yards and a touchdown against cover 3, while Sutton has 62, but Sutton has 9 targets to Judy's 6 or 7, and Judy only has 3 catches on those targets. So if it's one of those spots where for their offense, figuring out who necessarily is it going to be, and from what we've seen, it's going to be Sutton at least tonight. And if you want more of a deep throw, like deep shot type of hog here, Eric Saubert, he ran the most routes in that tight end room, I should say. I know Cooper got excited that I said tight end here.
Eric Saubway Boonham.
He's playing a ton of snaps, and it's like if he's gonna run routes like that, then I want to get him in my DFS lineups. And then the last hog, I'll go on the Colts side of the ball. It's Nyheim Hines.
Eat it, Simon.
Of the routes that he's run, or he's been targeted against zone coverage. The Broncos will run a heavy zone, just like majority of the NFL now. Without Jonathan Taylor, I'm expecting a lot of swing routes to his side, especially on the side that Michael Pittman's playing, because Surtain's going to follow Pittman for the majority. So if you get Surtain on a slant and Hines on a swing on that side, then you're going to get Hines just catching the ball with a little bit of space and beats a linebacker to a corner. He's going to get 10 yards on that play. I think it's a game where you see 7 to 8 receptions for Hines, not necessarily 10 or 15 carries or anything in that regard.
Yeah.
Love it, dude.
Yeah. It, the Nyheim Hines, I called him a log not too long ago, Jordan, if you were listening. I said he was a log for tonight's game. And I think the difference is I'm with you on the rushing side. Like, I don't think he's going to get 10, 15 carries. I don't see that happening. The difference was, are we going to see that big uptick in the receiving game? You're making a strong point there. You're making a strong point for Nyheim Hines as a log or as a hog instead of a log. I did want to bring up, Coop, whenever we were talking these wide receivers in this game a little bit earlier, you mentioned you were nervous about Gilmore covering Cortland Sutton, right? Jordan, does that worry you at all in the Sutton start? I'm guessing not if you've got him as a hog.
So with cover 3 coverage, which is the majority, like Gilmore might line up with Sutton, but by the end of the play, he's nowhere near him. Their coverage isn't going to be follow the man the entire time. It's going to be one of those situations where Gilmore's in a similar role to what Richard Sherman was in terms of the Seattle Legion of Boom, where he's got that deep third of the field. If Sutton is on his side and runs a go route, then yeah, it's just one-on-one coverage. And yeah, Gilmore will be the guy that, I'm not going to try to attack, but I think Sutton will move sides, and I don't think Gilmore's going to completely shadow him. We just don't see that in today's NFL. It's really, really rare. I think Diggs is and Ramsey are like one of the few that truly kind of go towards each other's side. But even Ramsey, they play a cover 4 on like 25% of plays. That it's not shadowing anybody. You're not playing man to man like they used to and before with Darrelle Revis just going to the other side of the field. So as for that side of the game, I'm not too concerned. But yeah, no, Gilmore is not the guy I want Cortland Sutton running a go route against.
Interesting.
So,
Now,
Jordan,
sorry.
ahead,
I was gonna say, Jordan, you got to tell us about, because I've been fooling around with this tool that you guys have over on 33rd Team. Usually, we don't let guests plug anything because we just like to share our own stuff. But I'm gonna allow you, because I like this tool personally.
It's really a dominance thing.
And I've been using it a little bit. I want to let you plug this tool you guys have, the Edge, because you're talking about coverages and how guys perform against coverages. And probably a lot of listeners are like, well, I don't have time to watch all that film and figure that out. But you actually kind of don't have to now that you guys have this tool that addresses that. So can you give us a little insight into this tool and how to kind of use it?
Yeah, so for starters, the Edge is completely free, which is something
crazy,
pretty freaking cool on our end. That's not something you normally see. You can go to each position, whether it's passing, receiving, or rushing, and go as deep as you want to go, where you want to see what they're performing on coverages. You can go to the team filter, go to Denver, and then go down to coverage and look at cover 3. You can look at it from a standpoint of, I want to see cover 3 on a go route. Like, is it just going on a 9 route? You can sort it that way. You can look at each individual route from a 1 to a 9, and it's one of the cooler things on that side. And then on the other side, you can go to the passing and see how Russell Wilson's performing against cover 3, how often he's taking a sack, how often or he's throwing it downfield, has completion percentage and anything like that. And I mean, for me, one of the things that got me to Geno Smith last week was utilizing the edge and seeing, well, against the Detroit Lions, they're running a lot of man coverage. Then you go to Geno Smith, and in his career, so I mean, even dating back to last season, he averaged over 8 yards per attempt against man coverage. And I'm looking at, okay, well, Justin Jefferson got shut down by Okuda. So why can't he do that to DK Metcalf? And the reason is DK Metcalf plays football a lot differently than Justin Jefferson. DK Metcalf, bigger body dude, gonna, handle you at the line of scrimmage. Jefferson's gonna kind of try to win with finesse. And it's one of those things with the Lions. Like, I know everybody's like, oh, their secondary is so bad, and their secondary is extremely hurt. They're down to a lot of different pieces, and they're just at the point where they're just trying to blitz and play man. So if you have big body players like DK Metcalf, they're gonna get killed. But if Okuda's lined up on a guy that's more route running heavy, then I don't expect that guy to have the biggest of days.
Yeah.
Why is Jalen Waddle?
Like I was just gonna say, I'm hearing you talk about this, Jordan. I'm realizing like me picking Geno Smith and DK Metcalf last week is really, even a blind squirrel finds a nut sometimes. You're a squirrel with like 8 eyes finding that one. Like you're finding every nut out there
squirrel.
in the DFS field. You're spider squirrel just scouring those nuts. There's no nut that's safe from Jordan. You can see so well. Whereas I'm just a blind squirrel who found a nut over there with those two guys.
Yep, there you go. Jordan Vanek, handsome, genius, nuclear spider squirrel. Now, question, Squirrel Bob in the chat. Squirrel. Yeah. So
like Beetlejuice. We said it too many times.
Like in tinkering around with this, like I've, kind of checked a bunch of different routes, things. Like, why is Jalen Waddle so good at running posts? Like, why is he the best?
Why is he so Jalen Waddle, the one thing he does well is he doesn't lose speed when he cuts. The different this Mike McDaniel offense in Miami, the one thing that I've loved that they've done, they mix both of them in the slot, out wide, and their route trees are a lot different than what they have previously run. Like last year, we saw Jalen Waddle on these freaking short passes. This guy catched 15 passes for 60 yards, it felt like. And this year, it's like, oh, if he catches 15 passes, he's probably got 200 yards because this Kyle Shanahan coaching tree throughout, the one thing that they're best at, and I was preaching it all offseason, was they're going to get their best players the ball in the way that they want the ball. And Jalen Waddle at Alabama, that's what he was. He was deep, explosive, and also on these short screens to just make plays after the catch. And you look at Tyreek Hill on the other side, it's like, what are your safeties going to do? And I mean, the Bills game, you saw Tua make the throw to start the second half to Jalen Waddle on a post route. I think it was like 60 yards down the field. The Ravens, it got him plenty of times. Jalen Waddle as a route runner, he doesn't lose speed, and with what they do in the running game and force your safeties to kind of like split outside because they don't run up the middle. If you watch them play, there are a lot of like outside pitches, outside sweeps, outside reverses, and they spread your safeties a little bit. And once your safeties get spread, they basically run that post route and it's open on the deep side of the field.
Yeah, I mean, like you look at Waddle, he's way out in front this year. He was, I think, 7th last year, and on that particular pattern. And when you look at the other guys that are good at it, it's the guys you would expect too, like Justin Jefferson, Van Jefferson's up at the top because he's one of those one cut and kill you guys. But it's like Cooper Kupp, Stephon Diggs, Tyler Lockett, the exact kind of guys you would expect. So like you look at some of these routes, especially the deeper one cut routes, and you want your guys to be on that list. So definitely appreciate the insight on that.
I think you just named like 4 guys who are from a Shanahan type of coaching tree because you got the Rams, the Seahawks offensive coordinator is a Rams disciple from McVay. Then you have Justin Jefferson. I guess he wasn't. Oh, last year he wasn't, but it was it was Gary Kubiak's son, Clint Kubiak. Yeah. So it's another one of the OGs of this coaching tree. This is kind of like where it's scheme and then talent. If you get those two matched, it just turns into huge days, which we've been seeing pretty much all year. We're watching this Justin Jefferson guy pretty much get into the Cooper Kupp role where it's like, how is he always open? And then some games that he's not getting open, I went back and had to watch. Okuda just locked him down. Like, simply put, he could not get open on Okuda, and Kirk Cousins did not have enough time for him to take a little bit longer than he's normal to at getting open. And This Vikings team, if I were a defensive coordinator, I'm blitzing them every play because they cannot block a blitz whatsoever. It's painful to watch.
Makes JL happy with Kirk Cousins standing back there.
Yeah,
JL's like, blitz him every play. Blitz him every play.
Every single place. Put him on his
Jordan,
ass.
Jordan, we had a question in here coming from our friend Hal, Work and Grind. He wanted to know, can the Edge tool tell us why A-Rob sucks?
I wrote this up in the showdown article on Monday. Allen Robinson has the lowest target share on this team in zone. They just do not look at him in zone coverage, and I think I'll say this. He is not who he used to be, clearly, but they need Van Jefferson desperately. They have no speed at receiver that threatens anybody. So they get to play 7 people around the middle portion of the field pretty much because there's nobody that is going to threaten them down the field. So they desperately need Van Jefferson to help free him up a little bit. But for whatever reason, McVay in this offense, Al Robinson was one of the guys that I was touting out because I thought in this role, like they would able to, get him into the routes that he liked to do. And they can't figure it out unless teams blitz or play man. Like if against the Lions, I'll like Allen Robinson. Pretty much against 70% of the NFL teams, no chance I'm getting Allen Robinson in any of my DFS lineups.
I mean, like
really,
I look at what the Rams are doing, and it reminds me a lot of the Jared Goff Rams, especially 2019 down the stretch where teams were just sitting back against them in zone, and Goff was taking the low-hanging fruit. Like there was that stretch every time Higbee was getting 10 targets a game. Like they lost to the Cowboys soundly, and he just continued to dump it down to Higbee over and over and over. And I feel like that's what this Rams team looks like, is that like defenses are setting up in these zones and saying, go ahead and throwing underneath, and Stafford saying, okay. And then they're just kind of falling right into that trap. Like I think they need to find a way to get out of that, because if teams are setting them up for that and then they're doing it and losing, it's going to be a long season for that team.
Yeah, I mean, Kyle Shanahan put in a masterclass against him. Like this past, like watching Kyle Shanahan call plays in the running game without Trent Williams, like they did that toss counter that Jeff Wilson just seemingly got, 20 yards, it felt like every time they ran it. And I'm looking at it from like Sean McVay's side, and I'm like, you have 2 running backs that Cam Akers is not the guy he used to be, but like Darrell Henderson has shown he's capable. It's like if Cam Akers just isn't who he used to be, and like we're clearly seeing it. We're watching a dude that just doesn't have any vision. He doesn't know how to read blocks at all. And an offensive line that obviously is struggling in that regard, but like Darrell Henderson hasn't been bad. Like he hasn't been like watching Darrell Henderson versus Cam Akers, and I'm the biggest Cam Akers guy from coming out of college and stuff. I don't know how you're putting Cam Akers on the field so much more than Darrell Henderson. I don't see a player that knows exactly how to read blocks, someone that's not super explosive right now, and if he doesn't find that, like it's one of those things. Sometimes athletes just don't recover from these injuries, and I don't think Cam Akers has shown any signs of doing so.
Yeah, the Cam Akers thing, man, it's kind of sad because we were worried coming into the season, but I don't know. It's just weird when something like that hits. It's kind of sad because you want Cam Akers to do well, and it's sad that he's struggling coming back.
Yeah, no, definitely. I agree. I'm always in the corner of I want these athletes to recover, but I'm also very first person to say like sometimes they just it's one of those tough things. I'm hoping guys like Javonte Williams come back to full strength because he supposedly we don't have the full diagnosis and everything. I know that it's a torn ACL. Supposedly it's similar to what the Dobbins injury was. And watching Dobbins right now, it's upsetting. Like it's tough to watch him. I know he scored twice this past weekend, but like he just doesn't seem to have that gear yet. I'm hoping that we see it towards the end of the stretch, and I know Gus Edwards is coming back as well, which they're going to be a 1-2 punch regardless, but it would be nice to see him actually start performing at the talent level that we saw year 1, where it was averaging like 7 yards a carry, it felt like.
Yeah. Now, good question in the chat here. So Tommy asked, "Tool's awesome. Is there a way to see coverage percent breakdowns per team?" So I think what he's asking about is like, so this tool is great. It shows you how guys perform on certain patterns. It shows you how they perform against certain coverages. Is there do you guys have a tool or any sort of glossary or ranking that shows what the defenses are doing? Or what, like, where do you go to find that data to see like, okay, this defense is playing cover 3 on 40% of the snaps. So I want to lean into this guy. Is that been integrated yet, or is there a source that you know of, even if it's outside of 33rd team, where we can go and find out? Okay, I know these guys are successful against these defenses. Is this a good matchup this week? Is this team running this scheme often, or what kind of scheme are they running?
So right now we don't have in an easily accessible way. What you can do is filter by the opponent in coverage and kind of backtrack it, so you get to see like how each quarterback they've played does against cover 3 and how much cover 3 they've given against each quarterback. That is something that we're planning on implementing at later portion of the season. We have actually a tool that's another tool on the way that is again going to be a free thing to use. That's pretty exciting. So they've been working on that, and this is kind of like a V2 of the Edge. So there is stuff on the way, and as far as the data sources that you can technically get it is not free, but Sports Info Solutions, who is partnered with us, they're the ones who supply a lot of the data or all the data for the Edge and have been our partner in that regard. And then True Media, which is powered, I believe, by PFF as well. So both of those sites are my go-tos when it comes to coverage, but again, they're not free. The Edge is, so it's tough right now, but I promise you it will. That's a later thing that we're going to add, because it wasn't going to be able to be ready for V1 of this tool.
Jordan, for people who aren't DFS pros, or who are maybe hesitant to go and play in DFS contests, can you talk a little bit about your thought process as you're building these lineups, and how someone who is getting started could think about going in there and not just getting eaten up by the sharks?
So first off, stay away from the $5 Millie Maker contest.
Oh, come on.
That's just the very, very
it's like the slots.
Please, I want to play it.
All right. What are your thoughts on $1 scratch tickets though?
If you could buy 150 of those $1 scratch tickets, go for it. But if you can use something that's helping you identify the scratch tickets, it would be different. But as far as DFS, the very first strategy again is stay away from the eye candy. Go towards the single entry tournaments, 3 entry maxes, as you kind of learn the game. And when you're lineup building, you want your lineup to tell a story. And what I mean by that is, for example, when I'm playing Geno Smith, DK Metcalf, and Tyler Lockett, I want that game to be high scoring. So it becomes who is going to be on the Lions side of the ball. Jamal Williams, Hawkinson, Josh Reynolds. I felt like all 3 of them were viable. I looked at the tight end position and thought, well, in general, tight ends can't score. And then I looked at Seattle and I'm like, okay, like their secondary is just not very good. I watched the Broncos have like 17 different tight ends kind of do it. No Amon-Ra St. Brown. I felt like Hawkinson was going to work the middle of the field. I'm going Hawkinson. And then it's like, okay, so that's cool. That's done. Don't play a defense from that game. Don't even bother looking at any other things. You can also, again, play another line again, but that's more so for a tournament of 140,000 people, focusing in on more single entry style of builds. You'd want to go to, okay, so I want another type of game stack. For me, I looked at the Chargers-Texans. That was a game where I was interested in on Herbert, and also Texans gave up back-to-back weeks, I think, or 2 of the first 3 weeks, they gave up 30 points to running backs. Austin Eckler has been disappointing. I'm looking at a guy that like maybe he's not as popular. I'm going to get to Eckler, and then I'm looking at like, okay, I look through the data. I see Brandon Cooks is running all the routes. So like I'm not really concerned about Brandon Cooks. He might have started slow. I want someone on the Texans side, because when Austin Eckler's doing well, then I want someone on the Texans to keep scoring. So the game is more upbeat, more tempo. So I get both of them in my lineup. And ultimately, I never want my lineup to have 2 players that are, I guess, considered one-offs. And with my lineup build, I ended up getting to 1 player that was a one-off, and that 1 player was a CeeDee Lamb, because I felt like he was or popularity wise, he wasn't coming in as the guy that everybody was getting to. And I felt like he had the 30-point upside. So, in general, there's a lot of people who talk about the popularity of players. If you can get one player that's not popular into your main slate build, that's all you need. You don't need to avoid the best plays because they're the best plays for a reason. Don't avoid Jamal Williams because everybody's playing him.
Right.
You can get him in your lineup and still get different, which is what I was able to do with Austin Eckler, with CeeDee Lamb, with having Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. Like, those types of things are what you need to focus on. And as for myself, I write up the main slate tournament for the 33rd team, and on there I give away my player pool, every single stack, mini stack, and the one-offs. Those are things that I provide for anybody that wants to get into it. And again, it's the player, like last week, my player pool included Herbert, Geno, and Aaron Rodgers with Josh Allen. I was very preference wise, it was Herbert, Geno, and Aaron Rodgers. Those were my top three. And Josh Allen was just like, if this game is good weather, he's going to put up 40 against this Ravens team. But the weather turned into bad, so I turned into more Geno Smith lineups with some Herbert and Aaron Rodgers sprinkled in.
Man, I'm gonna start using the weather turned bad. The weather just turned bad, and now we're struggling over here. We had a question in here from Evan. Yeah, the weather turned bad. Just the weather turned bad. That's what happened.
5 years, wherever he goes.
Tommy had a question. Want to know: do you always stack QB with receiver, or would you ever not stack? Like, you ever plug in a QB without a receiving option in there for him?
The only players that I would ever consider that would be Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts. If you're a guy that really truly just only does it running, that's a possibility, but it's very, very rare that I don't take at least one piece of it, because at the end of the day, if you're Jalen Hurts or if you're Lamar Jackson, we've seen the Patriots game. You could have stacked Lamar with Bateman. You could have stacked him with Andrews. The Dolphins game, you could have stacked him with Bateman or Andrews because Lamar still ran for 100 yards. You could have stacked him with both of them. There was like a 70-point type of game. So I'm always stacking, because there's a stat I put out in the stacking article that I made where I believe it was 26 of the 28 quarterbacks that scored over 30 points last year on FanDuel or DraftKings had at least one player, they at least threw for 3 or more touchdowns or had over 300 yards passing. So it was very clear that, like, it's very rare where we see Jalen Hurts run for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns without any single pass catcher catching the football ever. So I definitely want to stack. How much you're allocating salary-wise becomes the game, where if Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown are my stack, it's very difficult for them to get there, because then you're going to need Jalen Hurts to kind of throw for 300. You're going to need it to be a passing type of game, and A.J. Brown's got to go for like 130 to be like truly that DK type of play. But I usually will be like, oh, I want Dallas Goedert. I mean, he's very good tight end. Tight end's a position where I don't need 40 points. I need 18, and I'm pretty much good. So that's kind of the way I always think about it.
I got a question for you and this actually, I can kind of mix this in with Tommy's question in the chat. He asked, do you flex RB, wide receiver, or tight end more often? And also, I want to know, like, when you're doing these showdown slates, when you're trying to determine who to make your captain. I know it's always so tempting to make the quarterback the captain, but for you, what's it take for you to go away from a quarterback and go to somebody else in that situation? So as far as like picking the flexes or picking the I guess what position do you usually lean to for flex and or also for captain for showdown slates?
So with showdowns, I will say quarterbacks, in terms of being the highest of scorers, it's not as optimal as people expect, especially on DraftKings, because they get the bonuses, and that usually dictates a lot of like receiving bonuses and PPR and stuff. That usually changes a lot of the tournament itself. So the way I view it is very much on the side of what type of game environment. If it's a game where I think it's like a 35 to 24 type of matchup and it features Josh Allen and, some of the guys Matt Stafford, that can throw for 400 yards, that can get you 30 points on that side of the ball, then I'll definitely consider Josh Allen as the multiplier. But like, this Thursday night game and I mean this Monday night game. Monday night's optimal lineup didn't feature a quarterback in it because Jimmy didn't really do anything too special. Stafford didn't do too much, and it was heavy. It was like a Cooper Kupp, Tyler Higbee, Debo, I think Juwan Jennings or Jeff Wilson, the defenses, and then maybe a kicker in there. So what I found was more optimability was like quarterbacks become the highest scorer on 38% of games when it's over 60, 32% over 50, but then under 50, it's 20% and 15%. So they're not usually the highest scorer unless the game it becomes this crazy shootout. So that's kind of the viewpoint that I have with it. That's how I usually treat it. I mean, every single showdown slate's different. And as for the other question about your flex on DraftKings, I very, very, very rarely double tight end. That is not a very optimal strategy to me. I don't. It's hard for one tight end to score a lot of points. It feels like to have two in the same week is very, very rare.
And to pick both of them. I mean,
yeah,
I'll admit that it's very difficult, and that's my job to try and do that. And it's not easy, dude. I do the tight end DFS article every week, and like the thing is, there are times where we get like 1, 2, and 3, or 1 and 2, but usually 1 and 2 or 1 and 3 are the two most expensive dudes, Travis Kelce and Mark Andrews. And then 3 is some random dude. You know what I mean? So it's like it's like needle in a haystack. And even then there's probably somebody that scored way more points. Right, dude? So I'm with you on that thing.
I think the only week that I've considered it was this past weekend. And it was Will Dissly and Hawkinson. Because it's like I'm stacking Geno and I'm just getting Geno, DK, Will Dissly, and I thought Hawkinson was going to be the guy that I wanted as a run back. But even then, it's like, yeah, no, it makes you super unique. But like the 3,500 receivers have so much more upside. Where you're looking at a Christian Watson for the Packers, where like he's super unknown right now. We saw Dobbs a few weeks ago. Like there's so much value at the receiver position where they get more usage. It's just how that kind of flows to that side of the ball where these 3K tight ends are an absolute nightmare to pick. So it's more so if I did it, it would be a unique scenario. And as far if I'm flexing running back or receiver more, depends on the week. One thing that I use heavily in my process is Z-score based on position and positionally cut down to a certain, criteria of like top 36 receivers, 24 running backs in a given week. And it's like if you like for week 3, I believe it was, you needed Nick Chubb to win.
Yeah,
Nick Chubb scored 12 or 13 more points than any running back. That's a huge advantage compared to your I had Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle with Tua. It did not matter because I did not have Nick Chubb, and that was preventing me from having a super big day that day. Because, I got a lot of points from them, but, my running backs were, DeAndre Swift, who ended up with, 8, and I think Saquon had, a 9-point week or 12-point week that week. So it's it depends on how much are you scoring compared to the players at your position. There was a week where I 100%ed Darren Waller 2 years ago when he played the Jets, and he went for 40 points on DraftKings. It gave me a significant advantage on everybody in the field because – their tight end scoring 10 isn't good anymore. They need their tight ends to score 25, 30 plus to get close to what I'm getting at Darren Waller. And it becomes a, points value or points versus position game where I outscored your tight end by 35. You may have outscored my quarterback by 2, but I still have 33 more points than you because of Darren Waller. So that's kind of how I always kind of factor in whether I'm going 3 running backs or 3 receiver builds. I very rarely, or 4 receiver builds, I guess, since it's a flex. I very rarely go 3 running backs, but that's just because tournaments, usually you want the massive upside, and it's very difficult to get these 5K running backs to actually have 30-point games.
Absolutely. Jordan, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to come and impart some of your DFS knowledge on us, your DFS expertise. It's always a pleasure hanging out with you, my man.
You're the man, Jordan.
Appreciate it. Now he's rich. Ladies.
Guys, if you are not following our rich, handsome, smart friend, Jordan Vanek, go and follow him on Twitter right now at Jordan Vanek DFS and check out his work over there at the 33rd team. And we sent you that link for the Edge. Check out that tool as well. Jordan, thank you again, my man, and enjoy the rest of your day. Good luck in tonight's slate.
Yeah, appreciate being here, guys. I know Coop reached out to me last night, and definitely wanted to always come on to this, and definitely always a pleasure to see you guys, even though you can't necessarily see me, but it's okay.
I can smell you.
We're gonna fix your camera because you're gonna come on here regularly and give us DFS lineups. So we'll get that. We'll get Keith, Ernie, sort that out.
DFS daddy.
I will give you one last advice. If Philip Lindsay is activated and Jonathan Taylor is inactive, or I believe he's actually out. If Philip Lindsay actually becomes activated, he is another guy that I will be targeting in the showdown contest, revenge game, and Nyheim Hines will never have that workhorse role. That's just the simple fact.
There it is, dude.
There we go.
Dude.
Hog Philip Lindsay. Jordan, thank you so much, my man. Have a great rest of your day. Guys, coming up next, we're going to answer some of your questions that have come in here as well. And then we got Mike Barner, fantasy sports betting analyst from RotoWire, joining the show as well to talk some of his favorite player props for tonight's game. You're listening to the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show here on Bettor Sports Network.
Make bets and follow your fantasy team while you buy, sell, and trade collectibles in real time. Only on Bettor Sports Network.
We got to get a team in Honolulu. Like, what about that, Ray? You think Oakland? Like, nobody's talking about Honolulu for the Oakland A's to move to. How badass would that be to have a Major League Baseball team? Instead, they want to go to like where it's 120 degrees in the desert of Vegas.
Right.
Ray, they should pick up and go to Honolulu. That would be epic right there for the A's.
They could go to Honolulu, and instead of playing 12 games against a team throughout the course of the year, you just play a 12-game set. Just get it done.
What's the flight from the Bay Area? 4 hours?
It's depending which direction you're going, it's 5.5.
Okay, that's not terrible. You'd have to manage the schedule a bit.
Right.
But it's doable. Like, you play your West Coast games and then maybe you give an extra day. Like you play in San Francisco through Sunday. Mm-hmm. And then you have your Monday off. Everybody gets their Monday off and then they play, out in Hawaii for 4 games. And they come back for the weekend.
It's very similar time-wise for us in California, in the Bay Area, to go to Hawaii as it is to go to New York. It's very similar. So, yeah, like you're saying, Giants do that to go to the Mets. The A's do that to go to the Yankees. They do it, so it would be very similar.
They would be they've already got the baseball background. I mean, they're dominant. The island loves their baseball. And Ray, you could even rebrand the team from the Oakland A's to the Oakland Lays. You can do the Lays, Ray. Look at that.
Good. That's actually, there's no way that would ever happen, but that's pretty good, Kyle. On the fly.
I'm giving away like free marketing right here.
Good work.
Right on the show.
The plan is for them to stay here, but the fans hate them. I don't know if the city likes them. They can't. I mean, it's embarrassing. I don't know. The plan
There's a lot of land in Hawaii. Just think about the views, Ray, of the Pacific. It would put your crap ballpark in San Francisco to shame. Like, everybody thinks that's a good view.
Right.
It'd have like waterfalls and real palm trees and the Pacific Ocean.
People trolling fire in the 7th inning stretch.
They would make the Giants Park look like, the vet in Philly. It would look that awful if they moved to Hawaii.
And you go to your flip-flops or shorts. They serve Mai Tais. They give Lays away, or the first 5,000 fans, whatever.
Well, everybody in the chat room loves it. Every time I get a compliment, I don't bring it up on the show.
Oh, okay, sorry.
I don't want to be that guy.
Call, chat, enter contests in real time. It's Sports Talk 3.0 with Bettor Sports Network.
What's up, everyone? Welcome in to the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show here on Bettor Sports Network. We had some questions come in the chat throughout the show that I wanted to make sure we got to. The first one I wanted to ask comes in from Terry. Terry wanted to know Russ or Trevor Lawrence. So Russell Wilson tonight or Trevor Lawrence this week. Coop, where are you going?
Before I answer that, it seems there's a bit of a conspiracy emerging that JL had the green screen put up over Jordan because he was nervous that he wouldn't be the cutest one on the show anymore. JL, is that true?
That is a theory, a rumor that's been floating around, and I can say with absolute certainty that it is 100% true. I must be the cutest one on the show.
Can you give us a little bit of a blue steel just to confirm your crown as the cutest?
Yeah, I can. I don't know what that is, but I can absolutely give it to you.
You never seen
No,
Zoolander?
you know what? That's
That
the
was
least
actually right
surprising.
there.
That is the least surprising
okay.
thing ever. That JL's not like into quoting Zoolander or can't pull a Zoolander quote. That seems like the opposite of your kind of movie.
Nah, I like Zoolander.
You like
It's a good movie.
Zoolander?
I just watched it. I watched it in like middle school. I haven't watched it since. So
Okay,
you got to get
I
back on
can't
that.
quote any of it. Yeah.
Well,
For
we
some
gotta
reason,
get
that
back in
screams a
there.
I love
movie
it
to
that
me
much.
where you're just like, man, that's like it just wasn't funny to me. Like I just don't like the
No,
jokes.
it's not
Like
fun.
for some reason, that screams to me as a JL doesn't like this movie. I
Oh,
didn't
Ben
mean to
Stiller
not-
acting that way, like just that aspect of it, that like the juxtaposition of Ben Stiller in that role is entertaining to me.
Dude, the why male models moment is one of the funniest all time moments in the movie. That you got to go back and watch that again, dude. It is beautiful. But again, so the question was Russell Wilson or Trevor Lawrence? Was that what it was?
I thought it was something related to Zoolander, but I guess not.
I think it was
Yeah,
Zoolander related.
Zoolander, definitely Zoolander.
we'll answer
related.
Russ versus Trevor Lawrence now while I try to remember what that Zoolander question was. I see Tommy down there saying Russ can't cook a microwave burrito. Trevor Lawrence is going to light up the Texans. Coop, do you agree?
So that you fall into the age-old question of, are the Jaguars like now too good that it won't be that good of a game with the Texans?
Age-old question. It's too good.
Many times we've wondered aloud to ourselves, are the Jaguars an absolute jag wagon? And are they just too good of a franchise? But
That
we
doesn't mean
actually,
what you think it means. I don't think.
for the first time ever, though, now we are in that situation where it's a low over-under game. The Jaguars are favored by a touchdown. Even then, I like Trevor Lawrence. I think he's a safe play. I think they will win and score points, so I'm going to start him. But obviously, there's a chance that James Robinson and Travis Etienne. I mean, James Robinson's been running well, and Etienne's game is kind of like Eckler, and Eckler just chewed these guys up too. So it could just be a game where they run all over the Texans. But I think Trevor Lawrence is about as safe as it gets. I don't know, boys. Are you going? I think Wilson is the low floor, high ceiling play, and Trevor Lawrence is the safe play. How are you guys feeling about it?
I'm too spooked. I keep saying it. It's too spooky to plug Russell Wilson in right now.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna plug Trevor Lawrence and I'm gonna take those safe points. That's not to say Russell Wilson can't do it. You're right. He is the upside play. Like maybe we see that. Maybe he starts cooking tonight. We get a nice chili going. I don't know what he's cooking in Denver. I gotta say
banana
something here.
peppers.
I gotta say something about Denver real quick. I got one complaint about the city of Denver. What the hell is up with that chili you put on your burritos? It's disgusting. I ordered a burrito. They asked me, "Do you want chili with it?" And I was like, "Sure." Like I guess is that a thing here? Like, yeah, I guess I'll take it. Like, what kind of chili? They were like, just like green chili, and I was like, okay, like that sounds good. They give me a to-go container, one of the deep ones, right? Like it's like this deep, and then there's a lid that closes over it. I open it up. I cannot see my burrito. It is a cardboard takeout
Swimming
container
pool?
full of soup all the way to the top, and there's a burrito swimming in there somewhere.
Not
it was
gonna lie.
And
disgusting.
tell us how you feel about soup, Simon.
I'm not gonna lie to you. That sounds good. And I'm looking at pictures of it right now. Looks good.
It's disgusting.
Soup's hungry.
They
I'm a big
ruined
chili
those
guy, dude.
burritos.
Yeah.
But
Big
that
chili
being
fan.
said, because of that,
Oh, the
I'm
biggest.
starting Trevor Lawrence over Russell Wilson. Because even if he does start cooking tonight, he's going to be cooking burrito soup. And it's not like soup with burrito ingredients. It's like someone just plopped a whole
everything you're
burrito.
saying sounds good. Burrito soup sounds good. So does this burrito.
Soup is the worst. Soup is literally the
There
worst
we go.
food.
There
It
it
is
is.
so bad. It is like
There
it
it
is like
is.
let's take this food
Cancel
that we like
cancel the
and then
gas. Cancel the gas.
submerge it in dirty water. Like you know what would make this chicken and pasta and vegetables better if we diluted it with dirty water and made it all wet and gross and soggy. Like that's how we make these carrots better. That's
that
how we
is-
make this chicken better. It's absolutely disgusting. Like every time I'm eating soup, I'm like, man, sure would like it if there was just more of the stuff in here and less liquid in this bowl. I hate it. JL, what about you? Russell Wilson or Trevor Lawrence?
I'll take soup.
You'll take soup. JL, go with soup.
Burrito
I'm
soup.
going Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence, these guys are pretty close to me. I think, honestly, their matchups, both of them are not great, not the worst. The over-under or the total set on these games are within 1.5 of each other. Like, these could be very similar games. The tiebreaker for me is the Houston aspect and also that we've seen Trevor Lawrence actually been doing it. and we haven't seen Russell Wilson been doing it. So no.
Tyson in here had a question for us, but before we say that, I got to add one more thing on this soup take. Just real quick, I promise.
Dude,
10 seconds.
enough with the soup, dude.
Oh my god!
If it's like a creamy broth, it's in a different tier. It's a little better. It's the ones where it's just like water broth.
Yeah, when you get all that lactose in there for your lactose tolerant ass, then it's okay.
So what are some soups you like? You like a broccoli cheddar?
Or like a baked potato, or a broccoli cheddar, or like a corn chowder, or something like that.
You seem to know a lot of soup. You actually know a ton about soups. It's like, you're like a zero RB guy of soups, where like you don't like them, but you know so much. You have to know more about them to defend your take. Is that what's going on?
100%. That's what's going on.
Baked potato soup is kind of a deep cut. That's a deep cut soup, is it not?
It's a good.
You don't
soup.
see that one that often. Though.
Yeah, it's not on every menu, but when it is, you order it. It's a good soup. It's always a good eat.
You have to get it.
Tyson did have a question though. He said, "Do you guys think Mo Alley Cox has another good game? Got fed the ball last week, and now no JT." What do you think about Mo Alley Cox, JL? You're our tight end guy. What do you think about our boy Mo Alley?
I am what they say is the tight end tickler, is what they call me. Yeah, Mo Alley Cox is not going to do it again. He's not going to. He had 2 touchdowns in that game. You can't predict touchdowns are going to be like, they're not predictive of future fantasy performance in this way. He didn't do that the other weeks. This is more of a fluke game. I'm not throwing Mo Alley Cox in my lineup unless I don't know, I'm stranded on an island with Tyreek Hill.
Coop, what about you? You think Mo Alley Cox has got it?
I got to go with the tight end tickler here. He's a tight end genius, really. So yeah, look at him up there. Oh, look what we have here. Speaking of
Joey, what's up, Joey? Welcome. I heard you had something you needed to call in and tell us about.
I just want to say that we have a lot of smart people on the show. Coop, he knows his fantasy football. JL knows business like anyone else I've ever known. Simon absolutely is correct on his soup takes. 100%. And yes, a creamy broth it's a step up from a soup. Still, soup is only for old people and when you're sick. There's only 2 reasons you should ever eat soup. I'm with you. And chili is not a soup because there's enough meat to compensate.
Chili's its own tier. I agree with chili. Is more of a, what am I going for?
Stew?
Like a stew, yeah.
Yeah.
Hearty stew is a different territory.
Yeah.
I'm with you guys to a certain degree.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna sit there and eat a bowl of water with a spoon. Like, chicken noodle soup is whack. I do like French onion soup. It's phenomenal, especially when you got like a little bit of bread in there and like, yeah, some of those watery soups are good, man. I think you're getting a little carried away, the both of you guys.
Joey, I just want to say I appreciate you so much in coming out here and giving me that. Usually my soup take leads to nothing but vitriol from everybody else because
I started seeing it, which is why I called in.
I needed
Keith's
that.
like, Joey, what are you coming on for? Do you want to talk football? I was like, soup.
I got soup talking.
What do you guys think about a good chowder?
Hopefully Mike doesn't mind next. We're going to cancel all of the prop talk and we're just going to talk straight soup talk for at least 30 minutes. So I hope Mike prepped for that soup talk coming up. Joey,
takes on soup.
While we have you here, before we get you off, let's get one fantasy football question out of here. Our friend Tyson wants to know, should I start Jameis Winston, Jimmy G, Derek Carr, Teddy Bridgewater, or Mac Jones at quarterback? So you got a lot of options there.
Yeah.
Do you know which way you're leaning out of those guys?
So I'm doing my rankings right now, and I'll tell you, I don't hate Derek Carr this week.
No, it's a good matchup.
He's going against the Chiefs. I'm getting a ton of feedback.
Yeah, I was going to say we're getting some of that.
Yeah, so I'm gonna hop off, but yeah, Derek Carr for me.
Derek Carr for Joey. Joey, thank you so much for coming on and defending my soup take over there. We had some more questions in here. Tim saying cereal is soup. We are not going down the what is and isn't soup route on today's show. We just don't have time for it.
Just the soup is garbage 15-minute road, all right?
All right,
That's it.
guys,
and then we're stopping and we're turning around. Tim,
here's the
don't get
thing,
carried
though.
away.
I'm about to blow the door wide open on this whole conversation. Are you guys ready for this?
No.
This is 100% true. You can ask my mother, and you can get my mother and fiance in a room together and ask them, and they will totally corroborate. You can get my mother and my fiance in the room together, and they will corroborate
in the same room.
They will corroborate this take. I've never had a bowl of cereal with milk.
With milk?
Like, so I've had cereal, like kind of like Cinnamon Toast Crunch, just kind of like as like a snack, but I've never sat down and had a bowl of cereal and milk.
You do not. Please tell me you're not a water in your cereal guy.
No, I don't do cereal with water.
It's dry cereal. I'm
just
with
eat
you.
like
I
just eat like
dry
English
cereal a lot of
muffins.
time.
I eat like English muffins and stuff. I don't really eat dry cereal either. I've done it like probably a handful of times. Like if there's nothing to eat except for like one of those little boxes, I'll just eat it. But like I just don't do that. I don't like to get up my cereal all wet. I do like oatmeal. Yeah, oatmeal. If that counts as a cereal, then I have oatmeal. You know.
You guys are missing out because I think maybe it's a top tier breakfast, like not even just cereal. A top tier breakfast is Reese's Puffs. Reese's Puffs are like absolutely incredible. It's literally like their slogan is it's candy for breakfast, and they're not lying. It's the most honest slogan in all of food. Like it's literally a bowl of chocolate and peanut butter with that. It's so good. I could eat Reese's Puffs for every meal.
I'll have to take your word for it.
Yeah, Coop's not even having it. Guys, coming up next, we've got Mike Barner of RotoWire joining the show to talk some props for tonight's game. Right now, you're listening to the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show here on Bettor Sports Network.
Whether you collect sports memorabilia, fantasy championships, or winning bet slips, talk about it on Bettor Sports Network.
I believe one of our bosses at Bettor Sports Network put out a tweet asking all of the hosts on Bettor Sports Network to react to how their fantasy teams are going thus far. And my reaction was 2 words in all caps: not ideal. It's not having more of a 500 type of week. But then you had others respond saying they don't check their scores until Monday. Why? What? Is it just not fun watching your fantasy teams as the games are going on? I understand maybe not obsessing for the first hour, but normally, Ron, within the first 2 hours, I'm checking my scores. Why are some of our analysts on BSN against checking their scores until freaking Monday?
That to me is like you're watching porn and the girl starts to take off her shirt and then you click off the video. Why? Don't you want to see the rest? Like, come on, man. Sorry, I'm a person that has to look at scores. No matter how much I try and refrain, like I have to open it and look. So that's just me. Sometimes it's not good. I get it. I understand if someone doesn't want to check till the night. You have so many leagues. You don't want to put stress on yourself. But you're not checking Sunday night going into the night game to see what you have left. You don't want to know who your opponent has. I don't know. For me, I got to check. So I got to look. No matter how much I have to, like right now with baseball, like I'm checking it every day. I mean, I thought in my home league I was done. This guy had a huge lead. I am actually a 1.5 back now. So now I'm like, oh, here we go. And I have another league that's close. So yeah, man, I mean, I got to check. If you don't want to check during 2, 3 o'clock, I get it. It's early and things happen, but I'm always looking. So I don't see how you can go the whole day Sunday.
It's fun, isn't it? Fun watching your scores while the games are going on. It's fun. I get that you're on tilt kind of, but that's why we play.
So what are you going to do? Not watch games all day and then be like, all right, I'll tune in at 7:15, see what happens. Like that's what it's like doing. I don't know. I don't get it.
Whether you collect sports memorabilia, fantasy championships, or winning bet slips, talk about it on Bettor Sports Network.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show here on Bettor Sports Network. Joining us right now, we've got Mike Barner joining the show to talk some player props for tonight's game. He's a fantasy sports and betting contributor over at RotoWire, Sportsline, and DK Live. Mike, thank you so much for coming on with us today, my man.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. I guess I have to prepare some soup and cereal takes today, huh?
Yeah,
one of those days. One of those days.
We call audibles here, and sometimes things take priority. And I know we've got a game tonight, but soup talk seems to be what's on everybody's minds. People in the chat are demanding it.
What's your top soup, Mike? We need a rule. What's your favorite soup?
Let's ease into this. Let's ease into this first. I know it's not a black and white topic. But are you pro soup or anti soup?
I generally don't eat soup. The only soup I will eat is tomato soup with grilled cheese.
All right, he's a traditionalist.
Good combo.
He's a
Good
traditionalist. I think that's fair. And I am So my take is in line with yours to where soup by itself is nothing to me. Like soup by itself is something that I eat. That's something I eat on Thanksgiving, like while I'm waiting for my real food, if I'm going to have it by itself. But I'm with you that if you have it with but tomato soup to me is like a dipping sauce more than anything. So I'm with you.
Yeah, put a bunch of like oyster crackers in it, something like that.
Yeah. So I'm with you.
That's
you
about
gotta,
it. That's not
can't
really
just
soup. It's
have
kind of cheating.
We got Better Boss in the chat saying, "Who cares about PPR standard? It's now soup or no soup." Yeah, that's the
Soup or no soup.
Super.
Hosted
That's a
by
new
Howie
TV
Mandel.
show. I was gonna go there, JL. I'm just soup or no soup. You open the briefcases and they're just full of soup, like not in a bowl,
Wait,
just like
pours
just like
out.
you open it, just like pours out all over. There's soup all over the floor. The model's like
Sounds like a show for
slipping back and forth.
Nickelodeon, dude. Right? You just get covered in soup. That would actually be a hilarious bit, dude. Soup or no soup.
I'm imagining that on like Rick and Morty's interdimensional cable, where they just like open the case and everyone's falling in soup over there. Mike,
Instead of like models, it's just middle-aged white men who don't like soup.
Yeah,
just
it's
don't
just
care
me.
about soup. Oh, gross.
No, it's soup again.
So we got to address these prop bets tonight. And I think the way that we should get to it, I don't know why I said tonight, it's like 9 a.m. We should get to these prop bets. And if you like them, then they are no soup. So if you like the over, that's no soup. If you don't like the player, that's soup. You're getting covered in soup if you bet on that player. So I think we got to go through some of these.
So confusing.
Who's getting souped and who's not.
Who's
getting souped?
This is like Nickelodeon. Who's getting slime?
You getting souped on, dude.
Who's getting souped on? Mike, are there any lines that jump out at you from this game tonight? Like any player props or maybe the total you're liking? Anything that like screams at you like this is a must play?
Yeah, I'll have an article coming out on RotoWire today. I've got 3 player props that I focus on. I didn't really feel too great about the spread or the total, so I've been focused on the props. The first one that I took, this one, Melvin Gordon over 57.5 rushing yards. That's minus 113 on FanDuel. Obviously, we got no Javonte Williams. Gordon's already been pretty busy this week, 12 carries for 58 yards in week 1, 10 for 47 in week 2. There was 5 games last season in which Gordon received at least 15 carries. He finished with at least 60 rushing yards in 4 of them. So that's why I like the over there.
I like it too.
So no soup. That's a no soup on the Melvin Gordon line. No
So that's a good thing, right? That means you agree with me?
Yeah, that's a good thing.
Okay.
We've decided
So make
that
sure
not getting covered in soup. So if you're betting on these and you're betting if you're betting on the over, I don't know. It is very confusing.
Now, moving away from soup, this is a little bit of juice, but I still like the over on this. Nyheim Hines over 3.5 receptions. That's minus 156 on FanDuel. Again, that's quite a bit of juice there, but I do like it. Obviously, no Jonathan Taylor here. Taylor's been pretty healthy. The last time he missed a game, week 12 of 2020 against the Titans.
Ooh.
In that game, Hines had 8 catches on 10 targets for 66 yards. Even with Taylor in the fold, Hines has hit the over on this number in 3 or 4 games this season.
I gotta put sunglasses on so I can take them off with that. That is like, and you look at it, dude. In these games with Taylor, he's had 3 receptions in pretty much all of them except for last week, right? Like he's getting a decent number of targets.
Yeah, I was surprised that line was set that low. Again, there's quite a bit of juice there, but I could see that moving up as the day goes along. That might move up to 4.5 pretty soon.
That makes me think, like, what am I missing? Know what I mean? Like when I see a line at 3.5, I'm like what am I missing? What do they know that I don't know? Because that just seems off. And this is like, I'm not super high on Nyheim Hines tonight, but that seems like a low total. That seems absurd. Like, I like the over on that one as well. The Nyheim Hines lines were kind of weird. Like when I was going in and looking at these, like you expect Jonathan Taylor's out. Well, Vegas isn't expecting him to rush a lot either in this game. He said at 35.5 yards, rushing yards on that side. And I'm not comfy. Like I expected that to be higher, expected to be more comfortable taking the under, but that just screams I'm staying away from it. But I like finding a way to get Nyheim Hines involved in there. And that receptions prop is a good one. That yardage prop is scary for me though.
That last game that Taylor was out that I referenced in 2020, Hines had 10 carries in that game and he only finished with 29 yards. So I'm like you, I'd stay away from the rushing props. There's enough on the receiving side that I would go with that.
Absolutely. You said you had a third one that you loved, right?
Yeah, last one. We got to go with an interception prop on Thursday Night Football. It's usually a pretty ugly game. Let's go Matt Ryan to throw an interception. That's minus 122 on FanDuel. He's played 14 seasons in the league. He's had at least 11 interceptions in 11 of them. 37 total interceptions the last 3 seasons. He's had at least 1 pick in 3 or 4 games this year. He's probably going to have to throw the ball more with Taylor out. So that just means more opportunities to be picked off.
Yeah, I love that, dude. I never think about those, but it makes so much sense, right? That like in a game like this, it's going to be sloppy. They're going to be chucking it. That that could go down.
I like to look at them more on Thursday night football than anything else, just because of the short week, things tend to get a little messy there.
And it's also, I love like bets that rely on things that you're going to scream about anyways. Know what I mean? like things where you're going to react anyways. Like an interception, when an interception happens, you go, whoa, like you start freaking out a little bit. I want that extra freak out. Like I want to take those hype moments and take it from 7 to 10.
Now you're flipping the coffee table, right? Like now
exactly.
there's soup everywhere.
Like you're just like it's just
table full of soup.
Yeah, soup all over Matt Ryan is what's going on right there for throwing that pick.
I love that, dude. Yeah. That is a fun one too. Yeah. Cause that interception is going to be a hype moment.
Man, I want to take so many unders in this game, but I also don't want to sit there and be bored all night.
Yeah.
Unders are no fun. They're definitely not fun.
Yeah, no fun. Yeah. One of my buddies, dude, like he placed 3 bets on the Super Bowl and it was like the coin toss, the under, and like the over on the number of punts in the game. I'm like, dude, go sit outside. You're being such a wet blanket right now. Like it's like first drive, he's like punt. Yes. I'm like, dude, you're an asshole. Like get out, go away.
Also, have you guys been messing around with any single game parlays for the game tonight? I have one. I'll give it out. I put a little bit on this. I wouldn't go crazy. I did Melvin. This is on FanDuel again. I did Melvin Gordon 60 plus rushing yards, Hines 25 plus receiving yards, and Gordon to score a touchdown. That gets you to plus 434 odds.
Wow, that's pretty
so
big.
If you're doing that free bet, you got to get yourself at least 3 legs and plus 400. That's one you could use for that too. The sweat free.
Good. I'm surprised you can do lines on the same player. Like, is it possible to do 3 Melvin Gordon bets? Is that?
I mean, maybe if you wanted to mess with his receiving yards, maybe. But
then you got to get into another world. Okay. I like that.
What was
plus
what was the third one on there? So it was Melvin Gordon rushing yards, Nyheim Hines receiving yards, and what was that third one?
Melvin Gordon touchdown.
Melvin Gordon touchdown.
Yeah. Basically, just you're rooting for Melvin Gordon, Nyheim Hines. I don't think that's too hard to do. And plus
and they're fairly like the 6. We only got to get 60 rushing yards out of Gordon and 25 out of Hines. Those both seem pretty relatively low. Maybe the most risky one would be Gordon if for some reason they like Mike Boone or Murray. But I think the touchdown one, I think they're going to rely on Gordon, especially if they get in close. So I thought plus 434 odds there. That one's worth the risk.
I tell you, if you bet that one, there's another potential to flip your coffee table, not in a good way. If Melvin Gordon fumbles again.
Oh,
yeah. I mean, the ice is thin over. He's got one leg in the water right now with the fumble.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on, man. Maybe he has the yips with that, but like he's putting the ball on the ground every single game, right?
You really think if he fumbles, they're going to like make Mike Boone the feature back in this offense this week? Like, I just don't buy it. I think Melvin Gordon could fumble 3 times in this game, and they're still going to give him the rock again after that instead of going to Mike. Like, it just seems like such a disparity. He did get 10 carries.
10 carries. Melvin Gordon had 3 last week.
Man, yeah.
Murray's a little worrisome too.
Absurd.
Murray looked pretty good last week for the Saints. So, I mean, I know it's a short week and they just add him to the team, but I'm still very confident in Gordon. But yeah, there are paths to where this doesn't feel like as much of a slam dunk.
That's such a tough one with guys because it's like we don't know when you're not connected to the league. We don't like Latavius Murray could be like a very smart dude and like a savant, and he could be picking up playbooks really quick because he seems to be one of those guys that gets added quickly. Whereas other guys get added to teams and they spend the whole offseason, they can't figure out the playbook. Tavon Austin did not seem to figure out when he was a rookie. He told reporters that the Rams playbook looked like Spanish to him. Right. I'm like, that's probably not something you should be saying out loud, Tavon, dude. But like some of these guys seem like they show up and they're ready to rock and roll right away. So maybe Latavius is one of those guys. Who knows?
I think running backs, Latavius Murray it's a little easier for them because you don't really need to know a ton about the schemes, right?
You just need to know this, right?
Just go, baby. Yeah. And take off. So yeah, I think that likely is what's going on. We've seen this with like players like Devonta Freeman, right, where they just get, or Adrian Peterson, where the teams will bring these veteran players in who can just sort of get plugged in, and I bet you they're just running like simplified, plays.
I bet we don't see Latavius on a pass plays because these pass blocking schemes can be fairly intricate at times. Some of them involve counting and knowing what the offensive line is going to do, because it's like when you're standing back there, especially in shock, like you got to know which of those guys is being let through. You know what I mean? So probably not a lot of Latavius on pass plays, but I could definitely see him, like you said,
that's a good point,
running up the gut.
Yeah.
Absolutely. One thing I always like.
Bills yesterday.
Oh, Coop, just what a perfectly timed Tavon Austin comment. I feel like we haven't even said his name once on the show. You bring him up, and it's the day after he gets cut, snipped, removed from the Bills team. Mike, something I always like to do. Coop usually plays this game. He pulls it up. We look at that anytime touchdown scorer list, and we like to play. How far down would we go? Like, what's the lowest guy on that list that you'd be willing to throw $10 down on? Saying for the anytime touchdown scorer props. And there's a couple on here, like a little bit lower down, that they kind of scream out at me that I don't mind.
Not even ones that you particularly love, but and definitely if you have some that jump out that you love, but like who is the dirtiest dog that you'd be willing to be like, you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if so-and-so scored the first touchdown just randomly. How deep on that list you willing to go?
I think Philip Lindsay had pretty high odds at one point, and they seem to be talking him up quite a bit. Obviously, you would not expect them to go to Hines if they do get inside the red zone here.
I love that if they do get in the red zone.
Yeah, I mean, it's been ugly. And the Broncos defense, as bad as Russell Wilson has looked, their defense has actually been pretty good. So I think Philip Lindsay might be pretty far down on the list, and he'd probably be one I'd be okay with taking a shot on.
He's plus 950, so they moved him up where I'm looking at for first time.
Are you looking at first time? Oh, I was looking at any time, which is where
first time he's plus 950, so they actually moved him way. He's ahead of Jerry Jeudy on this list. So he's not necessarily.
Yeah, he's been moved up.
There's some guys here that are deeper that. I mean, like for instance, he's not necessarily. I think maybe there's options that are deeper, but Mo Alley Cox is like plus 2,000. Yep. I don't see why that's not
that right there.
Yeah,
that right there. That'd be the other name I would just think. Yeah, that's a good one. That'd be.
You're not throwing money on Matt Ryan rushing touchdown plus 5,000. No, you don't see that.
He fumbled the ball 80 times already. I mean, he hasn't lost them all, but he's been fumbling the ball like crazy. They probably don't want him to run if he's got the ball in his hands. Drop it again.
Definitely not. I mean, QB sneak on the one, they probably don't go Matt Ryan. They probably don't do that.
They seem to really like Philip Lindsay. I mean, there's been a lot of talk the last couple of days about how they want to get him involved. It seems like he'd be the guy that they would go to inside the 5.
I like that Philip Lindsay one. I do like the Philip Lindsay line. It is a little bit higher. I like the Mo Alley Cox one. And then maybe a name that Jordan brought up while he was on the show. Eric Saubert could be another sneaky guy that we could throw in there. He's a little bit higher than Mo Alley Cox at plus 1,900, but that could be a sneaky guy. He's right there tied with Latavius Murray at plus 1,900. And that would be fun to see Latavius just come in like every week on a different team, come in, score a touchdown. Good to go. See you next week. It'd be fun to see Latavius do that over there. JL, are there any names on this list on this first touchdown score that you think jump out at you?
Give me a second to look through it.
Well, while you're looking, I pulled up Matt Ryan, and he has a rushing touchdown every once in a while. Like last year, he had one. But he had a 5-year stretch where he did not score a rushing touchdown. So kind of a tough bet to.
He's no Daniel Jones. Is that what you're saying?
Dude, please stop with the Daniel Jones, man. Like Saquon Barkley carrying the water up and down the field all game, and Saquon Barkley gets both the rushing touchdowns. Get out of here with that. Same with Daniel Kenny Pickett. Dude. Kenny Pickett did the same thing to Najee Harris. Leave us alone. Let us live.
Leave us alone.
What a game. But Kenny Pickett didn't drop a pass, ran in 2 touchdowns, and everyone was mad. Every pass he threw.
Stat. Yeah. You got it, Simon.
I was just saying there was no one that was happy leaving that game, right? Maybe some Steelers fans got some hype, but Kenny Pickett comes in. So if you started Mitch Trubisky, sorry, out of there. Then he throws 3 interceptions. So if you happen to start Kenny Pickett, you're also unhappy because he threw those picks, but none of his passes were dropped. Every single pass was caught. Every pass he threw to his team caught. So I guess maybe a little happy if you're a Steelers fan. And then steals the 2 touchdowns from Najee Harris. It was just like a fantasy points vacuum last week with Kenny Pickett coming in the game. It was like just any hope you had for your Steelers options. It was like, nope, none of those are going anywhere. Kenny Pickett stealing the touchdowns and everything else is just bad for you.
An interesting, a couple interesting options on here is Denver defense and Indianapolis defense. The FanDuel Sportsbook, they're each plus 800. These are 2 very good defenses, very good pass defenses. I might be interested in that.
Oh, for an anytime touchdown score, one of the defenses? That could be fun. That could be fun. Maybe Matt Ryan.
We already got that Matt Ryan bet. I don't know if I need to double down.
Yeah, if you wanna, yeah.
Get it. Just getting
if you want to
crazy.
go, if you want to go on this being a defensive game, one of the props I was looking at on the DraftKings Sportsbook was McManus over 6.5 kicking points. He had 3 field goals each in the first 2 games. He's been one of the better kickers in the league from over 50 yards. So he could get, all he needs to do is kick 2 field goals and make 1 extra point, and he hit the over on that. So if you're looking for a defensive battle, you could take a shot on that one too.
That's a really great point.
I'm actually not looking for a defensive battle. I have too many fantasy. Oddly enough, I have too many fantasy teams. Like I have a couple Colts defense teams, but like I'm not looking for that. I'm looking for fireworks, dude. We got to talk. I'm looking for fun stuff to talk about tomorrow. So I guess a pick 6 would be fun, especially
Also,
now that we're rooting for it with these with this bet that we got going.
Mike, last time you came on, we talked about this Travis Kelce prop, right? It was over on receiving yards. It was the Derwin James game, and every single one of us said, "I think I'm taking the over." But this also feels like a trap. Like this is the trap. This is the trap. And we said it on the show. Each one of us agreed. And then lo and behold, it's exactly what we said. It was a trap. Derwin James body slams Travis Kelce into the ground, like full on WWE style. We don't get that big game from him. But now we're looking at another game that looks like it could be a trap for tight ends. Producer Keith in here with the stat for us. Tight ends are averaging 60 yards and a touchdown on the Colts this year. So we brought up Eric Sauter. Do you think this is another trap game if you're trying to get cute, maybe pick out which Broncos tight end is going to do well against this Colts team? Or are you staying away from the tight ends in this matchup, even though maybe it's a pretty good one?
I don't want to mess with the tight ends with how, the let Russ cook. Maybe they should order out because what he's been cooking hasn't been pretty good. I don't trust him. I don't trust the tight ends. He really seems to be locked in on Sutton and Judy when he does throw the ball. So I'd be staying away from the tight ends.
You're not pumped to start Eric Saubert?
If you're desperate, but
no. The right answer is just no. You're
that's a no. If you're in like a 16-team league,
then you're probably gonna have him on the bench.
But
if you're in a
why
16-team
does Saubert
league,
sound like
Saubert's a good tight end 3 for your team.
Yeah, there you go.
Saubert sounds like a puppet for like just the last name. Like if you had a puppet, you might name him Saubert. Like for some reason, when I hear Saubert, I just see like the big floppy mouth, like a full-on puppet name. You had Eric in there; it's a little bit less puppety, but Saubert itself. Hi, I'm Saubert. He's a creepy horror.
At least
puppet.
he's easier to say than Albert O, right? I can't.
Please, dude. Please. Free us.
I'm practicing that one. Guys, coming in from Daniel right now, coming in with a super chat. He said he wants to know if we could weigh in on some league drama. So league drama, Daniel, we're going to jump this and talk about this right now. He said Commish just reversed Noah Brown, Irv Smith, Hunter Renfrow, and Dontrell Hilliard for Chark and Kelce. Manager receiving Kelce is adamant it's fair and should be allowed. What are your thoughts? So that is Noah Brown, Irv Smith, Hunter Renfrow, and Dontrell Hilliard for DJ Chark and Travis Kelce. What do you guys think on that one? Should the manager have reversed that trade or should this be standing?
It's not. I wouldn't say this is like fair. Just looking at like vacuum value, right? What these player values are, but I am firmly against any sort of reversing of trades unless there is obvious and clear collusion that doesn't, that is unambiguous. So
Agreed.
I would say leave it.
Let the kids play.
Let the kids play.
Because too many times I've seen trades that everyone thinks are bad, and then it turns out that like Travis Kelce gets hurt or something, and then all of a sudden you just ruined this guy's season.
You got Renfrow for free, yeah,
because you didn't let him do that trade. You know what I mean? And then it's contentious. Here's how this is the harsh reality. If you don't think the dudes in your league are smart enough to trade with each other, then maybe it's time to assess who you play fantasy football with. Otherwise, you let people trade if they come to agreement and they're not cheating. So that's me. That's my take. What do you think?
Mike, what do you think on this one?
I am against vetoing trades. I don't like it. If you think it's collusion, then the two owners that you think are colluding together should be out of your league.
Get them out.
If you can't trust them, then they're out. That's my thought on it.
Yeah, agreed.
I fully agree with everything you guys are saying. The one stipulation I will add, the only time I am in favor of like reversing trades is if you are in a mixed league of people who are very have been playing fantasy football for a long time and some newer players, like very new. This is their first year and you want them to have that positive experience, right? If it feels like you've got someone trying to take advantage of a lack of knowledge and it's a league that's just for fun, like maybe it's a work league with some people and you convinced someone to play fantasy football for the first time, I can be okay with having commissioner powers in that league, only in the instance where it looks like someone taking advantage of a new player, because I want it to be a positive experience for that new player, right?
That's going to be a bad experience either way, though. If you go to them and say, hey, you're too stupid to play this and you're too stupid to make trades.
It's not that. That's not what you're saying.
That is what you're saying.
You don't go up to someone learning someone new and say, you're too stupid. You don't know it yet.
If you can go to that person, and convince them that they don't want to make the trade, then it's not a veto. It's that person asking for the trade to be rescinded. That's like, if the person wants to do the trade, you can't just veto it and then say, you can't do this trade because you're too dumb. Like, I'm protecting you from yourself. That is no. That's not the way to do it. Like, go to the person and explain to them, like, hey, this is why you shouldn't do that trade. And then if they decide they don't want to do the trade, fine. Then you have to go to the other person and say, hey, this person didn't realize what they were doing. They don't want to do the trade. That's not a veto. That's a person deciding they no longer want to do the trade.
Right? Well, sometimes I was talking about reverting. Yeah, like sometimes you don't have the opportunity to have that conversation before. You see it come through, you have that conversation after. Yeah. That's where I'm talking about reverting the trades. I'm not talking about
if the two people involved in the trade are willing to revert the trade, that's not a veto. That's two people agreeing to revert a trade.
Okay, I guess I get what you're saying. I think we're saying the same thing, though. I think we're saying the same thing. We're on that same side. Mike, I wanted to thank you so much for coming on with us today, my man. Before you go, score prediction for tonight's game. Who's winning? How much do they win by?
I think the Broncos win, and I'll say they win by 6 points. I think things are going to be ugly for the Colts tonight.
Broncos by 6. Mike, thank you so much, my man. Thanks for coming back on. Can't wait to talk with you again.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Enjoy your Thursday night football. And everyone, make sure you go and follow our friend Mike over on Twitter. You can find him on Twitter at Roto Mike Barner. That is Roto Mike Barner. Go and give him a follow right now.
Dude, I'm kind of fired up about that interception prop. I'm going to definitely bet that because that's going to be fun, right? That'll be fun if it hits, dude. So I am going to bet that. Sprinkle a little bit on there because, you got me all excited talking about like jumping around and flipping tables. So now I got to get a piece of that. I got to get a piece of that action. Yeah, I got to flip the table. I'm having soup tonight, no question, just so I can spill it everywhere and be like, sorry, dude. Matt Ryan sucks.
Having soup tonight just so I can spill it everywhere.
My fiance be like, what the heck was that? I'd be like, sorry.
I don't even know if we have soup in this house. My girlfriend does like soup. So there might be soup in this house I can spill somewhere.
I just spit on the ground and go to my fiance. I'm like, don't you get it? That's funny. We talked about it on the show.
Call back.
We had a question. We had a question in here from Horrid Henry. We had a question here from Horrid Henry. He said, who wins this trade? Jalen Hurts, Najee Harris, and Khalil Herbert versus Derrick Henry, J.D. McKissic, and Kyler Murray. So Jalen Hurts, Najee Harris, Khalil Herbert for Derrick Henry, J.D. McKissic, and Kyler Murray. Which side of this trade are you guys going with?
J.D. McKissic.
I think that's kind of
Hurts, Najee, Herbert versus Henry, McKissic, Kyler.
I think I would go the Jalen Hurts, Najee, Khalil Herbert side of this.
If Khalil Herbert's
sorry, go ahead. I was gonna say Najee Harris is Derrick Henry and Najee Harris are in similar boats to me. I prefer Derrick Henry just slightly. I'd prefer Jalen Hurts over Kyler Murray at this point. Khalil Herbert, he is like a temporary value, but I think he like the upside is much higher for him than it is for McKissic.
Yeah, I think if you're in trouble and if Khalil Herbert's going in your lineup this week, then I'm definitely taking the side with Herbert, right? Because if you're starting Herbert and Najee and Jalen Hurts, then that's the way I'm going. And I'm assuming that the guy on the other side has somebody in the flex, and J.D. McKissick's just kind of a toss-in, right? So he's getting an upgrade too. So it might be a fair trade for both teams. But I'm with you, JL, that like now if Khalil Herbert's, if I'm doing that trade and Khalil Herbert's just going to be on my bench, even with David Montgomery out, then I actually don't like it.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. You definitely have to take your own team into account here.
Yeah. So it's like if you're just trading for Khalil Herbert and not using him, when in the only situation where you would use him, I don't see why he would even be involved in the trade.
Yeah, swap him out for a different player who's got more long-term upside.
Exactly. Yeah. But if you're using Khalil Herbert this week, then I actually kind of love the trade for that side.
Yeah.
Greg in here had a question, said, I'm 0-4. Should I trade away Swift for Kamara in a must-win week? So feeling like he's got to win.
It's if you lose this week, you're still not out of it. It's only 5 games. We still are not even at the 50% mark of the season. You could still finish the season positive and make the playoffs. So let me just set that first, right? This isn't a must-win week. I understand you want to get on the right path. I don't know that Swift for Kamara really gives you that much here. It gives you like value maybe just this week, but do we know for sure DeAndre Swift isn't back this week? I know he didn't practice yesterday. I don't think we've gotten a report today. It's only 10 in the morning, so.
So the thing with Kamara is that, so I've been mentioned it a couple times, the possibility that they, if they're not making the playoffs, they bring that, they have that court case hit and then they eat the suspension. I actually went yesterday and talked to Drew Davenport, who's like he's an awesome dude. He's really,
Drew's a great follow.
Yeah. He said, not only that, but he set up a whole poker tournament at the expo, just like a really cool guy, but he's also he's like a lawyer himself, and he isn't scared to give his best opinion on these legal situations. And he had a thread where he said the same thing. He was like, there is a real possibility that with that date, they just decide right then and there, they say, hey, you know what, let's pay this guy some money, settle this whole thing, have him drop the lawsuit, we'll give him a bunch of money, and then immediately go to the league and say, let's figure out a suspension right now. And then it works in the league's favor. It works in the team's favor. Kamara's going to get suspended at some point anyway. So might as well take the rest of the year off and come back and play a full season next year. So that's a real possibility. And that's from a real lawyer folk. So I'm worried about that. Real lawyer folk. So both guys are banged up. I'd rather have Swift.
What do the fake lawyers have to say?
Fake lawyers been saying the same thing I've been saying for a while. They just finally confirmed it. They just actually confirmed it.
Is that how they say it, JL? Just like that? Ah, yeah. I've been hearing that a lot lately.
I've been hearing in my replies to my Kamara situation. That's why I had to bring Drew in. Somebody was in there and was like, that's not how this works. And I was like, hey, well, let's ask a lawyer. And Drew comes in and he's like, that is how this works. So eat it. Eat it, Twitter.
Eat it, Twitter.
Hee-haw. Eat it, Twitter. Take a lap.
We had another question in here coming from Matthew. Matthew want to know, should I trade Chase Swift and DJ Moore for Mixon and Devontae Adams? So Jamar Chase, DeAndre Swift, and DJ Moore for Joe Mixon and Devontae Adams.
That's such a monster blockbuster trade.
Monster blockbuster.
Wait, one more time. You guys, why don't you just trade teams?
Jamar Chase, DeAndre Swift, and DJ Moore for Joe Mixon and Devontae Adams. If this is the kind of trade where you're like, what happened? You just change your mind?
Just change teams entirely. Yeah, I think I want the side. It's so even at the top that I think I want the side that has DJ Moore in it. Just to
I know.
Yeah, why not just take a free DJ Moore? Like Chase for Devontae Adams? Sure, that's a wash. Swift for Mixon, that's a wash.
Double washes and a free more. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, dude. Like you're Jesus. That trade will keep you up at night. My advice is to just not do that. Not just stay away from those kind of trades, dude. Because that is like
unless you're getting more. In which case, if someone wants to give you a free player, go for it.
Yeah, but still, dude, it's like you could look back and Adams and Mixon could be
RB1 wide receiver.
And then you look back and you're like, you drafted the winning team and you traded it to somebody else.
Guys, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in this morning for the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show. We'll be back tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Eastern Time until 10 a.m. Eastern Time, breaking down that game that we're all watching tonight. Stick around here on Bettor Sports Network. Moose and Keith up next, followed by Lunch Money presented by Fantasy Guru. Until tomorrow, though, we're out of here. Adios, everyone.